Good evening, Yorktown. Welcome to the town board meeting for November 9th, 2021. If everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could all join me in a moment of silence as we ask for patience and healing for our community, as we can also keep in our thoughts and prayers all of our first responders, our police officers, firefighters, EMTs, all of our frontliners who continue to battle COVID-19. And of course, in our thoughts and prayers, as Veterans Day approaches, all of the men and women who've served our country, defended our freedoms, and all those who are away overseas, the bravest men and women the world has ever known, those serving in the United States military. Thank you.
Amen.
Few introductions quickly. Just introduce as I see on the screen. We have Deputy Supervisor Councilman Tom Diana. We have Councilwoman Alice Roker, Councilman Vishnu Patel, Councilman Ed Lachterman. We have our Town Clerk Diana Quast. Joined with me here, we have Adam Rodriguez. You're not on the screen, but we have Adam Rodriguez, our Town Attorney. And since we're talking budget, we have the Comptroller, Pat Caparella, here as well. Just have a statement, a couple of things I want to say. I think the town board wants to say as well. Obviously addressing the terrible incident that occurred last week here in Yorktown. Again, before we get started, I just want to address what happened at the Republican Party's victory party. A disgusting and racial slur was used to describe Councilman Vishnu Patel, which does not reflect the values that we should all strive towards as individuals. America has a complex, flawed, and sometimes contradictory history when it comes to race. Our founding principles are based on the notion that all people are created equal. But we know despite their intentions, that was not done in practice. I can't help but wonder if people, given the opportunity, can evolve. I ask myself if America has evolved, and I believe it has. I choose to believe that Yorktown can, has, and must again rise to this occasion. I want to be abundantly clear. Racism and hatred has no place in our community. This town board has collectively, in a very bipartisan fashion, denounced this time and time again over the past 2 years. We cannot take back the words that were said last Tuesday, but we can send a clear message that racism and hatred will not be tolerated, and people will be held accountable for their actions. What occurred last week is an awful reminder that racism does exist in our community, just like it does in every community across the country. I know people are hurt, they're disgusted, and they're angry. And they have every right to be. I know I am. I have known Councilman Patel and his family for years. There are few if any, who truly embody the American dream, what it means to me as an American, as Councilman Patel does. I don't have the words to express the measure of sadness that I feel for him and his family. Let this not be the capstone of an immeasurable career dedicated to public service, dedicated to science, dedicated to justice in the American way. Councilman Patel, I am so sorry that you and your family have to face this hatred. But please, please, please know that you're not alone. You're not facing it alone. Our community is standing beside you. We're standing behind you. I still believe this is a great community, but we're facing an important test. This test isn't about Democrats versus Republicans, but about people and neighbors. It's not politics, it's basic decency and humanity. Right now, we need a time to heal as a community, but also to consider how we as a community will respond. There are steps we can take, from working with the county's Human Rights Commission to providing bias training, exploring chief diversity officers, or even racial impact statements on proposed legislation. These are steps the town board must explore in order to put action behind words. But we must acknowledge that racism and unconscious bias exists, and that's what we saw last Tuesday. And we must send a clear message that it will not be tolerated in the town of Yorktown. Again, Councilman Patel, it's been an honor to serve with you, and I truly thank you for your service to our community beyond what you've done as a town board member, because you've been doing it for much longer than that. I truly hope that you will forgive all of us and the town that you've done so much for and which you love with your whole heart for letting you down. It will never happen again on my watch. I promise you that, sir. And for that, you have my word, and you shall forever have my gratitude and an admiration. I don't know if other town board members wanted to speak on this.
If I may, Supervisor.
Yes, Councilman Diana.
First of all, I want to thank two individuals on this town board, one being Alice Broker, the other one being Vishnu Patel. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with both of you on this town board. I've learned a lot from both. Alice had to kick me once in a while, but I did learn from her. And I just want to say, Vishnu, I am appalled that this was said. I am sorry. We're behind you.
Any other comments from town board?
Well, yeah, I guess I should say something. I don't have to say. I think what you've said about Vishnu is so Vishnu, because I don't think people understand how hard he works in this community, how much he cares about, particularly the children of this community. I think what we saw was somebody who felt that they were comfortable enough to use language which no one should ever hear. But I always fall back to this statement, which is from Maya Angelou, which is, when people show you who they are, believe them. And we now can believe them.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Lachman, you wanted to say a few words?
I also, like Tommy, wanted to echo my thank yous to Councilwoman Roger and Councilman Patel for their service. Alice, I still don't hold it against you that you made me sign the book for being a councilman, and I also don't hold it against you that you signed my marriage certificate as well.
I hope Carol's not listening.
She is, and I will pay the price for that. You think you get kicked? I will. But I've served with Councilman Patel for 6 years. I do not always agree with him, as many of us know. But you know what? The man brings a perspective to things, and it's outrageous that he was treated with such disrespect for the years of service that he has presented to the town. And Vishnu, I appreciate your comment earlier on how you are strong and you move on, but you know what, we all feel the dismay over it, and that will continue, and we hope that you are successful and don't disappear from public life after leaving office.
If there's no other comments, there are some town-related announcements that I'd like to make.
Let me just say something, okay?
Yes, please, Councilman Patel, of course.
This is not surprising that one individual at the Republican Party gathering and celebrating shout out wild, obscene remarks about my nationality. And it was directed only to me. My daughter and son, the first Indian brother and sister, and the one from Yorktown High School to graduate from West Point Military Academy and serve in a very, very high position. You will never know those pictures. I don't want to show you because, that will even create another controversy, okay? So what I really want to say is, that Donald Trump's behavior as the president gave permission to the worst element in a Republican Party to say and do anything they want. You're going to hear it more from other people that are very high ranking and dedicated people. That includes military officials, okay? So what hurts me deeply about that video is the leaders of the Yorktown Republican Party was nobody said nothing. I can digitally reproduce word by word when you are bum 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 bum, okay? Why nobody say anything? And now what do you wanna why you want to say something else? Maybe cover up. I'm not gonna say anything. Let me tell you good now, okay? So what hurts me deeply, I already told you. But nonetheless, remain hopeful that a new generation of Yorktown
Yes.
Republican will appeal to the best tradition of the people and not the worst, not the worst. That is my statement from the heart, okay? And I'm going to continue hard work as long as I be able to move, and I will contribute whatever I can to make this town better than what it was here. Every volunteer organization I was honored even before I became a councilman. 10,000. It was written by the students in a school district. Okay, and I'm very proud of my kids. And then somebody was telling me, "Why are you showing your children's picture?" My children was not in a prison bunk. That the guy who was saying that.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is not a little thing is going on. I mean, and yes, one rotten apple can spoil everything else. So so let the people decide it. I'm not going to go crazy, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Just a few items, again, town related, just to update the residents on our water storage tanks over on Quinlan Street. Quinlan 3 and 4 are going to be inspected this week. Our water department is continuing to go through their leak detection exercise. They are doing it in-house, which we estimate to be saving nearly $15,000, which is always welcomed. Also, the Holly, there was a valve replacement scheduled for tonight at the corner of 132 and Holly that has been rescheduled. That's going to be rescheduled for a different time during the day. So if you did receive a notice of a valve replacement scheduled for late tonight, early tomorrow morning at 132 in Holly, please know that that has been delayed. The water department has begun processing and issuing their commercial water meter letters. This is something that we had moved forward, and then because of COVID, we put on hold. And then as we've explored potential water meter replacement or water meter project ideas, we held off on, but we have reinstituted the letters. They've sent out 100 letters in the last week alone to the just about 300 commercial water meter customers. And of course, we do anticipate all the commercial water meter customers receiving these letters about the need for their annual inspection to be completed by the end of the year. I do want to thank some folks who have been helping one of Councilman Patel's pet projects, the gazebo over at Veterans Field. We have seen significant improvement in that this past weekend, thanks to the leadership of Anthony DeVito, the DeVito Foundation, the Lions Club, and they are in the process of replacing the ramp going up to the gazebo. So right now it is roped off. We do anticipate being able to complete that by the end of this coming weekend. If there's anyone out there who wants to volunteer some time this weekend, anyone who's handy with some tools, they will be gathering again Saturday morning over at the gazebo at Veterans Field to complete the project. Also, from our Parks Department, the DEC's annual inspection of the Sparkle Lake Dam is coming up, and that is something else that we are working and coordinating with the DEC on. Our library is actually, this is a really great thing I wanted to make sure the community knew about. The library every Wednesday at 4:45 is offering a free tutor drop-in. There's a certified teacher there again, starting at 4:45 to help kids in the grades of second to sixth grade. And it's a drop-in system over at the John C. Hart Memorial Library on East Main Street. Let's see, a few other items. It seems that some regulations have been passed up by the state of New York as it pertains to Delta 8. Delta 8 was an item that was discussed during our hearings on marijuana. Delta 8 had been allowed to be sold in convenience stores and gas stations, and due to the new regulations passed in New York State, it is no longer going to be able to be sold. So I think that's a great thing for the kids of our community. And we'll be working with the Yorktown Police Department to ensure proper enforcement now that those regulations have passed. Just a couple of reminders. There is the Veterans Day Parade this Sunday, 2 p.m. Ed, is that correct?
If you're marching, 1 p.m. must
1 p.m. if you're marching.
And 2 p.m. step off.
2 p.m. step off up over at Lakeland High School, going from Lakeland High School to the John C. Hart Memorial Library. Of course, for those who live in the area, please plan on the road closure during the parade, but we are looking for a great celebration of our veterans. I do want to thank a number of our partners who have helped us with additional vaccine clinics. We've had booster vaccines that have been going really, really well. And this Friday, thanks to our partnership with Acme, we actually were able to obtain 300 pediatric Pfizer vaccines for the first time. And so there are already, I mean, it booked within, I think, about an hour. But it's fully booked. 300 kids will be getting the COVID-19 vaccine. As a reminder, there is no vaccine mandate, but we do believe that it's important to provide local opportunities for people rather than traveling down to New York City or elsewhere for those who wish to get the vaccine. Of course, for those parents who are interested, of course, important to talk to your pediatrician as well about the vaccine. And one last fun, exciting thing for us to celebrate, and that's the Holiday Lights Parade, December 4th. It is on. It's going to be the traditional Holiday Lights Parade, running, of course, through Commerce Street over to Veterans Field with we hope, and I've already put in the request, but we hope a special visit from Santa to help us light the tree yet again. And so for all the families who enjoy the parade every year, for folks who wish to participate in the parade, and for our judges and honorary judges, feel free to reach out to the Parks and Rec Department for more information about how you can help kick off the holidays here in Yorktown. And finally, I did just want to add a big congratulations to all of the candidates who participated in this past election. It is not easy to be a candidate. It is not. And anyone, regardless of party, regardless if you agree with them, who puts their name out there and is willing to step out into public light deserves an awful amount of credit. And so to all of our candidates, Councilman Patel, to Lonnie Gilbert, to Avia Cohen, who's going to be our first female justice here in the town of Yorktown, and to Sergio Esposito and Luciana Howitt, and of course Dave Paganelli, all those on the ballot. Congratulations, a job well done in representing your community. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments or announcements. Yes,
I do have a comment. On Friday, the 19th, the Senior Advisory Committee is going to hold a meeting at their
Gym.
In the gym at the YCCC. And the discussion will be on all of those Medicare commercials you see on TV. And one of the things that has always concerned me is that these commercials are paid by companies who want you to call them. They want your business. In Westchester County, there is a way to get that information without having to speak to a company. And a woman from Westchester County will be coming up and will be talking about what you do if you have those questions. You don't have to call a company that wants your money.
If I may, Councilwoman Roker, we also should warn our seniors to be careful, because then they go and phone solicit regardless and get you to change your policies. I know my My mother-in-law has spent this year alone probably a good 7 or 8 days on the phone trying to switch back things, and then my brother-in-law and I probably another 12 days combined trying to follow up on that. So they get our seniors get confused by the information. It's not.
And I think I think it's meant to confuse us.
It absolutely
it is.
Yep. It's a sales ploy.
Yep. And and also I'm told that she will also be talking about if you're turning 65 this year, she'll be telling you what you need to do.
Right.
So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation.
So anyone turning 65 in the near future may want to jump into that.
Absolutely.
Give you a good roadmap.
Why did you look at me, Ed, when you said that?
I don't know that you could tell I'm actually looking at you, but
no, I can tell.
Amazing that you picked it up.
Any other announcements from the board?
Well, I will say that the Lions will be doing hot dogs after the parade, as usual. But also, I wanted to make sure people knew that the Sons of the American Legion have bumped their breakfast up from the third Sunday of the month to the first Sunday of the month, or the second Sunday of the month for this month. So we could do it the day before, that morning of the Veterans Day parade. And we will be letting all veterans dine gratis for that day. So if you are a veteran, just show your military ID. For other guests, it is $10. And it'll be a nice morning before the parade. And then also, if anyone knows of any veteran that might want to participate in the parade that might be older, we do have some vehicles that will be available, a couple of World War II Jeeps and some convertibles and some classic cars. So if anyone wants to reach out, Matt, can I have them reach to Jenna through your office?
Yeah, absolutely. Please contact our office and Jenna can be the point on it.
Right. And Jenna can communicate it to me, and we'll make sure that any of those veterans will get an opportunity to get to the parade.
Any other announcements?
I want to say something. I think the councilman, Lecterman was there, and myself, we went to the Eagle ceremony.
Yes, thank you.
174. And it was really wonderful to see the young man become an Eagle Scout in a difficult time, because they provide all the Eagle Scout each year $250 million. And there was one yes. Myself, we were there, and I cannot believe how many. There was the celebration of wonderful event. There's so many flags, and I told him, if you want to be, in a life here, is that a passenger or a pilot? And his last name was a pilot. Tell me that. So I told the other that you are on way to flag.
Just, people really don't understand the dedication that it takes for people that decide to run for office. And it becomes a family affair. And believe it or not, this little board here is a family. And sure, we disagree on things,
Mhm.
you know, but we work it out, you know, like most families do. Sometimes we're a little dysfunctional, but most times we're pretty good. The amount of things that we handle here, we handle well. We get along well, and it has to do with the support not only of each other but of our families, because if it wasn't for our family support, you wouldn't see any of us here doing this. God knows we don't do it for the money. We do it for the love of this town.
He gives his money away.
Well, yeah, Vishnu does. He does it for the money. He'll get you. Show me a nickel, I'll give you $100. Right, Vish? See? And I just want to say thank you to everybody who participates in this election process, because it's not an easy one. Anybody that thinks it is, it's gut wrenching at times, and it's a tough road. And if you make it, it's a wonderful thing. If you don't make it, it's gut wrenching. Congratulations to everybody, and especially to those. Alice, you're now. Are you really going to retire?
I'm retiring.
Okay, no, she's not. She's kidding.
Done.
And Vishnu, it's been a pleasure and an honor.
So let me make I'm going to brag. I'm the only person in the history of the town. I have never taken one nickel. If you give me a nickel, I give you $100.
I knew it.
And my 3-year salary, I give it back an equivalent amount. From my saving, I have given to the charity where I wanted to make a difference. Yep. And I didn't beg it before, but it's time for me to say that if you are, you may need you may never know, you may need that shoulder to lean on, Yeah. To me, what matters in a life is every act of integrity, the compassion or sacrifice that enrich, empower, and encourage others to emulate your example. And it is not what you bought, but what you built, and not what you got, but what you give that matters.
Yes.
And Vishnu and I go back a long way. We go back to IBM back in 1970. Oh God,
George married.
Yeah, and I was working maintenance there. I'd have to fix what he broke, so it was it was an interesting. I'm only teasing, Vish.
The research we have created had made the United States #1. $10 billion was invested over the 10-year program, and it was happened only because of our patents. Otherwise, it cannot happen it, And then before the rewrite head storage, there was another $10 billion, and 25 billion to 100 billion, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm very proud of that. I contributed with the 20th Invention Achievement. I have more aboard than I don't know what to do with those. They're in a box. Never I have open up. The check is okay, put directly in the bank. So
I like that.
It's a wonderful, and I'm going to be around, okay? I'm not selling the house. As long as I'm be able to walk, I will move. And my garden is going to be better than over there anybody else, my competitor now, okay? Thank you.
2 blue ribbons and 2 blue ribbons next year, Vishnu. And I remember just a quick story about Vishnu from IBM. I remember I was in his lab at one point in time. I don't remember what we were doing in there. And he says, I want to show you something. And he took out a picture, like Vishnu usually does. He takes out a picture, right? And he said, can you see this? It was the size of a hair, okay? It was a piece of wire. And the next picture he showed me was basically what I thought was the same piece of hair or wire. And he said, no. He then shows me down on the bottom of the pictures, the piece of hair was solid. That was sent from the Zurich lab to the Watson Research Center. The Watson Research Center got that piece of wire. They were having a contest on who could make the thinnest wire. The Watson Research Center drilled a hole through the center of that wire.
God. Oh, wow. God. That's amazing.
Very cool. And then they sent that back to the I think it was Zurich at that point in time where they were doing the research. But it was a little competition. If they probably knew that was going on, IBM probably would have fired those people. But anyway.
There was the standing collecting microscope for the Nobel Prize in IBM, the owner department, and superconductivity, yttrium, barium, copper, really. It was a very big thing. And then, some of our crystal initially we were a competitor with the University of Pennsylvania, and it was my original research when I was a graduate student, replace sulfur atom with the selenium and increase the conductivity and increase the temperature. And it was sent in a space to duplicate the results. And it was not a superconductivity, but we made a big progress on that one. And then I will like that. Thank you.
We're going to continue with our agenda. If there are no other announcements, we're going to go to our Highway Superintendent, Dave Paganelli. Dave, you there?
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Councilman Patel, I'm going to quote Winston Churchill for you. All right. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. I believe you are the embodiment of that statement. And another one that is very close to my heart, to build may have to be a slow and laborious task of years. To destroy can be the thoughtless act of a single day. That being said, you can rest assured that your legacy will not be destroyed by the thoughtless act of a single day. So, God bless you and your family. And I apologize that you have to deal with, this unpleasantness at this point in your life. But that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Highway Superintendent Paganelli. We'll go to Poet Laureate, John Mcmullen. We have John? Yeah? There's John. Evening, John.
Good evening. Let me bring up this. Last year, I wrote a chapbook and I published it of Halloween poems. And I was going to read one of them at the last meeting. That was going to be last week because it was so close to Halloween. But since we didn't have it, I'm going to read it anyhow. It's kind of a horror Halloween poem. Nightmare. I got into bed very tired and my mind ready for a deep sleep. Soon I was in the midst of a bizarre world of sickness, poverty, and sadness. Widespread death, fighting in the streets, total misery in the land. Then I finished reviewing the day and exhausted, drifted off to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll go to courtesy of the floor. As a reminder, courtesy of the floor is 3 minutes. People don't need to wait to courtesy the floor to express any issue, bring any issues or questions to the attention of the town board. You can reach any of us throughout the week. You can call my office at 914-962-5722, extension 200. You can also email me directly at mslater@yorktownny.org. I just ask again that we keep our comments focused and respectful tonight, and I'll turn it over to our town clerk, Diana Quast.
Okay, we're going to begin with Kevin Burns.
Mr. Burns, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Most of you know that I am the chairman of the Yorktown Republican Town Committee. I listened to all your statements tonight, and I really can't add much to it. I agree that the comments were despicable, and I just like to read the statement that I gave to the media in case anybody is not aware of the statement that we gave. On Sunday, November 7th, Brian Marchhauser from the Yorktown News alerted me to the fact that a video posted on the Yorktown Republican Facebook page contained profanity and racist language. This video was taken on election night as our Republican candidates for town board were given speeches thanking their supporters. While the speeches were being given, an unknown person in the crowd could be heard in the background using profanity and racist slurs against Councilman Vishnu Patel. I was horrified and embarrassed to hear such language on our Facebook page, and once made aware of it, I immediately removed the video. The Yorktown Republican Town Committee condemns these comments in the strongest possible terms. I apologize that such an offensive video was on our Facebook page for 5 days, but I can assure that had I known about the comments, the video would never have been posted. When I first watched and listened to the video, I was focused on what the candidates were saying, not on the background conversations, and I simply did not hear the slurs. I can also assure that if I heard those comments being made on election night, I would have taken immediate steps to correct the situation. I informed Mr. Marchhauser that I would conduct an immediate investigation to see if we could determine the identity of the person making the comments, and if it turned out to be a member of the Yorktown Republican Town Committee, disciplinary action would commence. After listening closely and speaking to a few people who were present, it was quickly determined that the person who made the comments was District Leader Tom Pompisello. Mr. Pompisello was informed that these comments were unacceptable and inexcusable. He was asked for his resignation from the Yorktown Republican Town Committee, and he complied. On behalf of the Yorktown Republican Town Committee, I would again like to offer an apology to Councilman Patel and anyone else who was unfortunate enough to view this video and hear the despicable comments. Comments like these are unacceptable and do not reflect the values of the Yorktown Republican Town Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Thanks, Kevin.
Next.
Next, we have Rachel Frederick.
Determined that the person who made the comments was District Leader Tom Pompisello. Mr. Pompisello was...
Good evening, Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
You can unmute and you can speak.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As you know, I'm a Yorktown resident. Say, firstly, to Vishnu, that I'm so sorry that this event will be a mark on your public service story. As we all know that the recent racial slurs are completely disrespectful and dishonorable. Vishnu gave us over 10 years of public service. My first time meeting Vishnu was at the track in 2014 when he stopped to talk with preschool teachers and preschoolers. I later found out that he cared for the garden surrounding the gazebo.
Yeah.
I know that the town is putting in $17,000 to renovate the gazebo that honors Jack DeVito. And I wanted to propose that we honor Vishnu as well. Upon reopening, I think it would be really appropriate and really nice to publicly dedicate that garden to Councilman Patel. I think the garden is symbolic of Vishnu's work to cultivate growth in our town, as well as his personal love for the earth. So I just wanted to suggest to the board that upon reopening, we dedicate a plaque in the gazebo garden to Councilman Vishnu Patel. And to Supervisor Slater, I really appreciated your statement tonight, and it's true that racism exists in Yorktown and everywhere, and implicit bias makes its way out into the public and it affects others. You said it yourself tonight, you've had to condemn hate time and time again in the past 2 years. Condemning racist incidents one by one isn't working. We need proactive measures. I really appreciate your statement tonight and your words, and I think we all know it's time for action now, and our town board might want to look into bringing in a chief diversity officer. Thank you everyone for your service, for your dedication to our town, and for hearing me tonight.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye, good night.
It's a great idea with the garden. Next.
Next, I have Mel Tansman.
Great. Tansman, good evening.
Yep.
Hi, Mel. Hi, Maura.
Hi. I still have, I'm sorry, I have to take off the other site.
Yeah, turn off the TV.
Yeah, I did. You ready for me? I'm sorry. Good evening. I feel this has been a very sad and tumultuous week for our town. I speak tonight not to rub salt in a very fresh wound, nor to exacerbate the divisions and tensions that are evident in our community. I also take no joy in making this statement. Rather, I would like our community to come together to recognize and accept that we do have systemic racism problem in our town, state, and nation, and resolve to do better.
we need to be proactive in addressing this problem and recognizing that we even have differences about the existence of systemic racism, engage in a community dialogue calmly and respectfully without personal attacks. Frankly, I truly expect to be attacked for even expressing my views this evening, maybe not in courtesy of the floor, but certainly on those echo chambers on Facebook. Be that as it may, I will speak nonetheless, because issues of systemic racism are very personal to me. Some of you are aware that I am the father of 2 Black children, and while I will not itemize the indignities suffered by my family, suffice it to say they were impactful and, yes, systemic. I'm also really trying hard tonight not to accuse any particular organization or individual of being racist. Tonight, I simply want to ask our town's leadership to commit to a community dialogue, perhaps a town hall meeting facilitated by a neutral third party, such as the director of the County Human Rights Commission. We should encourage wide participation by all stakeholders, hold it in a location that can accommodate a large number of people. Change is never easy. Nonetheless, it is inevitable. To Councilman Patel, my sincerest regrets that you were the target of such a vile attack. My thanks for your service, commitment, and generosity to our town. I hope you will serve again, and remember that most of the town loves you and supports you in all of your future efforts.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tan.
Thank you, Mel.
Okay, I have a Frankie D, and I'm not sure if he's on for courtesy of the floor.
Well, I see we got,
That is.
I have Mike too.
oh, we have Frank. Frank, who's this?
Frankie?
My name is Wendy Frank. I'm going under my mafia name.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi there. I'd like to have courtesy for regarding the Bigley eyesore signs on every election cycle that I have supplied the town board. Code enforcement from the town of Huntington, Guilderland. Paul Feiner has supplied me his code. You do not see big signs, billboards in any other town in Westchester or Long Island or even Slater if you travel to Rockland County. You did not respond to one single one of my emails showcasing all the other codes. The town looked like a mess, an absolute disgusting mess. And what will you be doing in the future? Because code enforcement has been on siesta in this town for too long, and there needs to be codes so you don't put billboards in the center of town.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, did you?
There she is. We can't hear you, Wendy.
Oh, hold on. Did you hear me?
Now we do, yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. I am giving courtesy of the floor regarding the Bigley eyesore campaign signs, billboards that every year the Republican Party puts up in the center of town and all over the town. They are a complete eyesore. You do not see this in any other town in Westchester. You do not see this in Rockland County. You do not see this in Long Island anywhere. We need to review our codes and not have billboards, because big billboards with no substance seems to be the Republican Party's motto. But this is just it's an eyesore and someone needs to address it. And I've provided you with samples. And what is your definition of constituent services when you don't respond later to code enforcement issues?
Okay.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.
Next.
Is Matt Matone?
Mike Matone?
Mike Matone,
Mike,
sir.
yeah.
Hi. Hey, Mike.
I was trying to do my.
Mike, if you can unmute, you just got muted by accident.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, Matt
Mike.
Matone is my
Mike Matone.
much more handsome, thinner, younger brother. I hopefully can bring some levity because of tonight's conversation and the reason that I'm here. I know that there's some agenda items regarding HCV administrative plan. I continue to voice support for all programs and paths to lead that to more housing diversity and affordability in town. I think it's really important for us to continue to build to the future of our town. And I support and thank the board for their continued work on making those things happen. Tonight, I do come mostly as a father and an Italian American. Someone who grew up on Long Island, where in Levittown, there's restrictive covenants that were in the town of Levittown where you can only sell your house to another Caucasian. So, when you grow up on Long Island, you grow up with racism. Councilman Patel, I have two sons. I will be lucky if they can buy a ticket to a West Point football game, let alone do the great things that you did. And if I can raise my kids to be a tenth of what you've done, I would be very happy for that. And I really appreciate all the work that you've done. What happened to you should never happen. It is disgusting, in my opinion, that, someone who positions themselves as a leader in the local Italian-American community and an organizer in the Feast of San Gennaro, would come out and make these comments. I understand and I appreciate Supervisor Slater and the rest of the leadership to swiftly condemn these actions and unequivocally state that this behavior has no place in Yorktown. I'm hopeful that these words are followed with action, specifically the town board reviewing its agreements and work with the nonprofit CCM of Westchester and the Yorktown Feast of San Gennaro and demand that Tom Pompicello, who is responsible for these remarks, immediately resign their position from San Gennaro and completely remove themselves from this event. I hope, for my kids' sake, that this individual is not involved in an event as great as San Gennaro and all the other great events that everyone here on this call and everyone in the town of Yorktown put together in order to make this town a great place for young families to raise their kids and build a brighter future. So I appreciate the time. I'm sorry that, for any type of shortness or dismay in my remarks, but I moved here because I love the opportunity that this town provides and the hometown feel that this town provides. I only hope to have a great relationship with this town like Councilman Patel and everyone else has had. And I know that I can't do that if we continue to, allow people to not be held accountable for their actions. And I'm thankful that everyone was so swift in the condemnation of these remarks. For those outside these walls that might call this cancel culture, it is not. It is accountability, and we must demand accountability for our leaders.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so we have a slight technical difficulty. So I guess we'll continue on, but I'm gonna have to fix our online system here. So I'm gonna bring Sarah.
Is it still being played on TV?
Is it? Do you see it in there?
No, not in here.
Well, then it's probably not on TV either.
Okay.
So we might have to bring it down and bring it back up and see what happens. Okay, we're gonna have to take a slight break so we can fix this because I'm not sure why it's off. Okay.
Okay.
Sure. So I think the next person up, by the way, was Sarah Wilson. So we'll just pick up with her.
I'm not speaking at courtesy of the floor. I'm speaking at the public hearing.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Noted. Appreciate that.
And it's been frozen on TV for a while.
Yeah.
So
That's what we're trying to work through. Diana, do you need us to sign off or?
No, I'm going to just bring down the monitors and bring them back up.
Okay, roger that.
Oh.
Now we have audio. Okay. So I think we left off with Mr. Moskowitz for courtesy of the floor.
Yes, we did.
Great. Mr. Moskowitz, whenever you're ready.
Oh, I should mute my TV.
Yeah.
There we go. So I wish to thank Alice Roker and Vishnu Patel for the many years of service. I'm sorry that we're going to not have them on the town board come January. I could take this opportunity to mention that Alice Roker has not only been a town board member, but a town clerk and also the supervisor for a while.
Yeah.
And her period as a supervisor was one of the calmest in Yorktown. So maybe she'll come back in that capacity.
Noted.
I don't think so.
As for Vishnu, I'll just tell a brief story. We worked together for a while. And one day at work, I was heading for the cafeteria. And Vishnu saw me and he grabbed me and he said, I have to show you the pictures of the kids that I'm working on for science projects. And I said, no, I've got to go to lunch, go away.
At which time he grabbed me and he wouldn't let me go to lunch until he had shown me all of his pictures. And there was a big stack. He's very serious and he cares a lot about the youth of this town. And I hope he continues with that work.
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moskowitz. Next.
Next will be Susan Siegel.
Good evening, Ms. Siegel. Good evening, Ms. Siegel.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank all the town board members and also the members of the public for all of their comments about Vishnu. Okay, I think you all need a hearty thanks. Vishnu knows how I feel about him. I've worked with him for 11 years, and I will continue to be in touch with him. What I'd like to do tonight is ask the board for an update on 5 pending issues that have been raised at previous town board meetings and are still waiting for some type of resolution. And I realize the board has been busy, especially the supervisor, with budget issues, but 3 of the current board members will be on the new board come January, and these will likely be issues that they'll have to deal with. So just let me tick them off. The first is the American Rescue Funds. That's the approximately $2.5 million that the town will be getting in 2 installments from the federal government. Several weeks ago, I asked for a status report on how the town was planning to use that money, and we were told, well, we're still going through the regulations. I'd like to know what the update is, and will there be any public discussion at an open work session and possibly a chance for public input on how to use that money. The second item is ethics reform. Back in June, the board hired a special counsel, and one of the tasks was to review the current ethics code to see if there were any sections that needed any amendments. Has anything been done on that? Third deals with the sign law that was discussed in August. And again, the board talked about the need for some amendments. And I did hear Wendy's comments about the political signs, and that certainly is something that we should add to the list. The fourth item is I'd like an update on the status of the environmental assessment study that the consultant is doing for the overlay law. When will that be made public? And will there be an opportunity for public discussion of that before the board proceeds to any public hearing on the overlay law? And the fifth item is an update on the water meter project. Has the town decided whether it's going to award a bid based on the July advertised, or will it review other options before proceeding further? So I'd just appreciate an update, and I think the public would appreciate an update on these 3 issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel.
Next is Luciana.
Luciana, you there? Can you unmute yourself? Nope, he still can't hear you. Can you? There you go.
Hi there. Sorry about that.
We can hear you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I just wanted to reach out because I do know about the large amount of discomfort, and I cannot convey what a disapproval I have for what's been said on behalf of Mr. Patel. And Councilman Patel, I am very sorry about those comments. They were not comments that were heard by us as the candidates, and I know that they not only hit home to you, but they hit the entire community. And I do want to bring awareness to the fact that it's not solely the person that's involved, it's also an issue throughout the entire community. And it's important that we offer space for everyone to have a home to talk about it. And I'd like to open up my office, which is located here on Underhill. If anyone has any regards to this, or if anyone's hurting and needs a little bit of a space to talk it through, I'm happy to do so. There is no place for hate, but I do want to remind everyone that we all live in glass homes and we should not be throwing rocks. So it's not a place to fight hate with hate. It's time we bring awareness and we educate our population so that we can do better. Not only do better for our children, but do better for ourselves. So I just wanted to let you know that. I do know that Sergio wanted to be on tonight. Unfortunately, he's away until Sunday. He did place his statement, and I know that it'll be coming out in the newspaper. So again, Mr. Patel, I'm very sorry about all of this. And I hope that we can not only move forward by education, but also move forward by joining hands and staying together in it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Luciano.
Next is Mark Lieberman.
Mr. Lieberman, good evening.
Good evening, Supervisor, members of the town board. Mark Lieberman, a 23-year resident. Tonight I'm speaking as co-chair of the Yorktown Democratic Committee. And what transpired at the Republican victory celebration last Tuesday was shameful and cruel. Councilman Vishnu Patel, in fact, no one deserves to be exposed to such horrific belittlement and bigotry. We live in a heterogeneous society. That's America. Face it, that is why America was founded, and that is today's America. So in order to coexist, everyone must learn to live side by side in this diverse America. Differences in color, religion, ethnic background, or ability be embraced for our society not only to survive, but to thrive. The words of apology are inadequate to correct an act of hate like this. And the word disappointment is inadequate to represent the lack of concern by attendees at this party, as this racist comment was made without objection. The leaders and attendees of this event should have stepped in and denounced this kind of speech before they were shamed into doing so. Racism does not arise from drunkenness. Alcohol lowers the social barriers that control impulses. Drinks may enable a weak person to speak his true feelings, but alcohol does not excuse such heinous speech. There is no acceptable excuse. If there is any good news, it's that all over our great country, people are standing up against hate, promoting tolerance and inclusion. As you saw because of this event, when hate flares up, good people speak up, and with strong voices. I recommend that the town board, which has recognized that hate exists in America and in Yorktown through numerous proclamations, now adopt and make available well-documented principles and programs for fighting such hate. And we know the first person for this program. Thank you, town board and Yorktown residents.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chairman Lieberman.
I have a Ron and an iPhone, and I'm not sure if they're speaking at courtesy of the floor, but they are on.
Actually, good evening, folks. This is Ron, I believe, but I'm premature. I'm for the Baptist Church Road Bridge project.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
iPhone? I don't know who that is.
Anyone on an iPhone? If you can unmute and let us know if you're.
The iPhone's Dan CRC.
No, Danny, there's another one.
And you're on twice.
Yeah.
All right, and I believe Cynthia is for the mitigation plan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then that's all I have.
Okay. Make a motion to close.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Comments from the board?
Yeah, I do, Matt. We spoke earlier today about what can we do as a community.
Yes, we did.
And one of the things we talked about is having a community discussion. And I do think I think it's necessary so people can talk about where they are, what they think, and what they think is appropriate and what's not appropriate. I think that we have gotten so far from talking to one another. All we tend to do today is yell at one another. And I think it would be wise of us to really host a conversation with each other.
I think that's a great idea. I think there were several ideas that were proposed tonight from our participants that were very well thought out. And I think I actually mentioned a couple of them when I opened about some of the options for the town board to look at. I can tell you that I've already been in touch with some of the regional experts in this regard, talking about what action items we can put forward as a town board to the community and do it in a constructive way. And I think that's the key. It has to be in a constructive and thoughtful way. And so we are exploring those options to see what that would entail. I know that I did hear from a couple of the organizations in the region offering their assistance as well. And again, I think it has to just be a thought out, productive conversation. And I think it's a needed one. So that's something that we can definitely work on as a town board together to put forward for the community to participate in. And to Luciana's point, also to be educated on, because I think it has to be a learning tool. I really think that's important. Something that we all need to recognize as an opportunity to learn from, to make sure that we improve as a community and as individuals.
You know, I've been to a seminars given by the County Human Rights Commission.
Yep.
They are excellent at what they do.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the groups that, I mentioned earlier that we can do some work with. I've spoken with some private companies in the region, and they've recommended a couple of people for us to talk to. I've spoken with the Business Council of Westchester to see if there's any organizations that are part of their network that they would recommend, and they did recommend an organization who I've already been in touch with to see what kind of programs they can provide. So I think we're already working towards that. But I think right now, I think it's important, as we said earlier, it's also important to give us a second just to heal, come together as a community, rally behind and with Councilman Patel and his family. And I think that we've all been very clear in our disgust, in admonishing what was said. I do just want to say for a fact, since I was in that room, and I think Councilman Lachman was as well, no one where I was heard what was being said. And I think it's important to note that, because I don't think anybody would have stood for that type of language, especially, and I've seen people, social media is the great divider. It really is. I've seen photos being peddled all across social media. And if you look at the photo that's being peddled of me specifically, look who's in my arms, a child. And if you think for a second that I'm going to allow someone to say these things, knowingly say these things while I'm holding a child, a 4-year-old, you don't know who I am. And I think that's a very important point to make, because if we did hear it, if I heard it, it would have been handled immediately. So I just think it's very important for people to understand who weren't there. And again, social media, the great divider. Loved it in college. Can't wait till I'm off of it. But don't believe everything you see. And I'm happy to explain it like I just did. Any other comments from the board? I do have a couple other items that I'm happy to touch upon. By the way, if I could, Mike Matone brought up the Feast of San Gennaro. I've publicly stated already, and I mean this sincerely, if someone doesn't uphold the values of this community, then we should not be partnering with them, period.
No.
And I do believe that we must have new leadership in order for the San Gennaro Feast to continue in this community. So to Mr. Matone, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think there are some great leaders in this community, of the Italian American community in the town of Yorktown, who I have full confidence can pick up the reins and make sure that it continues to be a successful event for our community.
Okay, I want to address.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Roker. I thought I heard Councilman Lachman before and I cut him off.
I was, but Councilwoman Roker could go first.
I just want to address Wendy's issue in terms of political signs. And I know the law does not allow us to do a lot with political signs, but I do recognize that what we're concerned with regard to the size of signs is one that I believe is relevant and one that I think we can address through the new, if we are considering amending the code. I don't think I've ever seen signs that big ever.
Which is something that was one of Ms. Siegel's comments. We are still working with we have our town attorney here, but we are still working with some of our department heads specifically to make sure that we're capturing any of the amendments that we want to make to that code. So that's an ongoing process.
The town of Huntington, Long Island's code enforcement.
I'm sorry, we don't know. This is closed. Public comments closed. Thank you.
I'm gonna call Adam.
So yeah, and Alice, and one thing I will point out on that part is it was on both sides of the aisle. You know, I know it's directed at one.
I don't,
right,
you know, it doesn't matter.
No, I understand. If it's wrong, it's wrong, and we look at it in the code.
I agree with you.
Look at the code. I did want to just echo Supervisor Slater's comment. You know, especially, you know, I know some of you know my godson, Edmund, who's African. I find it actually a little insulting that someone thinks that I would stand for that language if I had heard it. It would have been addressed immediately by pretty much everyone in the room that I saw there. And it was very unfortunate that it happened. You could not hear from, especially from the vantage point where we were up in the front of the room. But you know, I think part of the healing process is realizing that individuals are individuals, and we do not blanket anything that's said or actions on a group of people just because of whether it's political belief, race, sex, whatever the case may be. We need to stop doing that as a community. We need to look at the individuals, and we need to take the opportunity to heal and to teach and to make sure that the community learns and moves forward.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments from the board? I do want to just quickly, I do have our comptroller here, Pat Caparel. Is there anything new on the ARA money that we had discussed? No other information. So we've not received any other information? Not as of yet. Okay. And then, Mr. Rodriguez, anything new on regards to the ethics reforms?
The special counsel is doing the code, and when
the special counsel is in the midst of his investigation. He is reviewing the code, and we anticipate he's going to provide proposals to the board in the not too distant future.
Yeah, when that happens.
When it's concluded. Yeah. Okay. We talked about the sign law amendment, water meter project. I think we're getting very close on this. We've continued to meet with our finance department, our water department. Our water superintendent provided documentation to the town board members this past week as to his recommendations. And so we anticipate moving in a very swift direction and a very, I think, pointed direction so that we can finally tackle this project after so many years of it being stalled. And our intention is to do so by the end of this year. And so we do recognize that we have a short timeline there. There are just a few more questions that I think we need answered from some of the bidders, but we do anticipate getting those answers and then bringing to the public what our decision is. As for the EAF for the overlay district, the consultants are working diligently on that. They've already, I think, accomplished 2 out of the 3 prongs that they set out to do. We anticipate the 3rd prong being traffic to be completed. I believe it's this week, and then we anticipate having a draft presented to the town board actually, I think in a week, if not 2. So assuming that everyone hits their marks, we do plan on bringing this back to the town board in the next week or 2 for public discussion. And those are the 5 updates that were requested by Susan Siegel. Any other comments from the town board?
No,
I just have one quick comment, and you know, I wasn't there when this happened, and I actually had gone down to see my best friend of 40 years, hopefully, at his election. I had left the Republican and was checking out the conservative polling places also, I should say, election campaign rallies. And I am appalled that this happened. I'm glad I wasn't there, but if I was, I would have handled it immediately. And this is something that should never, ever happen. We have denounced hate and so on in this town on numerous occasions, as the supervisor had stated earlier, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move forward with our agenda. We have a public hearing that we're going to be convening on the revisions to the Section 8 administrative plan. The town clerk is holding up the notice. I thought I saw Sandrine. Where did Sandrine go? Oh, there she is. Hey, Sandrine. How are you? Sorry, there were a lot of boxes there. I was trying to make sure I saw you. So we have Sandrine, who's our director of Section 8 housing. Sandrine, do you want to share your screen and walk through and present this to the town board? If you can unmute yourself, that'd be great.
Unmute. There we go.
There you go.
Hi.
There you go.
So I don't have the presentation. I can't show it to you.
You want me to do? You want me to do it?
Get copies. Yes.
You want me to put it up real quick?
If you don't mind.
No problem. A second. Okay. Let's see.
All right, great. Thank you.
No problem. You just tell me, say next, and off we go.
All right, great. So we can move on to the next one already. Basically, I updated the admin plan for the Section 8 program, and it needed to be updated because HUD did some update because of the pandemic. They made some changes. Basically, the administrative plan has some rules that tell us how to. Are we okay?
Yeah, no, hold on. We're just trying to get it to fit.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Well, so I'll just keep going. So it tells us how to deal with the tenants and the landlords and basically everybody that the Section 8 programs works with. So you can move on to the next slide because that was just a summary of both the first and second slides. We used to be able to change the administrative plan, once in a while. Now they want, or annually. Now the HUD wants us to change it as often as they make changes. You can move on to the next slide.
I just want to see if this is better for everyone. I don't know if it is or not.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Is that better, Tom?
Yeah, that looks good.
I'm just trying to get it on the TV screen because it's a.
Oh.
All right, there you go. All right, so we're going to go here. Changes to the administrative plan.
All right. Quickly before we get there, I just want to let you know that the administrative plan needs to be reviewed by the public. They're going to have 45 days beginning today to do that. And once approved by the board, it's going to be submitted to HUD. So the changes that we made, the first one was to add Lewisboro as part of the jurisdiction where our participants can find a place to rent. This was suggested by the town supervisor because there are new apartments in Lewisboro that are nice, where we would like our tenants to find units. And it's owned by Walter Balter, which is a very good landlord so far.
Great.
So the second, in the second chapter, you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. HUD would like us when doing remote briefings, informal reviews, and hearings to have oral interpretation when needed. So we have to be able to find an organization that can work with us. And also we should use video conferencing when possible, because instead of just oral interpretation, to make it easier for people to understand when we're doing the briefings. When it comes to non-discrimination, HUD wants us to make sure we don't submit anybody, and especially protected classes, to sexual harassment. Next slide, please. In Chapter 3, when it comes to eligibility, HUD has added a new criterion, so we can no longer take anybody who has already a rental subsidy onto our program. So if they are already receiving public housing, we cannot add them. We cannot give them Section 8 or switch Section 8 for public housing. We cannot use arrest records that somebody has on their background to deny them participation on the program. We have to actually use convictions. Next page. Okay, there we go. When we do briefings, we have the option of doing briefings remotely, but if we're doing briefing remotely, we do have to give reasonable accommodations if somebody who is disabled would like to come to meet us in person. We do have to look at that on a case-by-case basis, and vice versa. If we want to meet the applicant in person and they would actually like to do it remotely, we do have to give them that option, but we have to do it on a case-by-case basis. But if we do a remote review, it should be accessible. The platform that we're using should definitely be accessible to people who are disabled. Next slide, please. In Chapter 6, we have to exclude incomes or distributions and interest that is made on able account that are for disabled people. Chapter 8, regarding the inspections, we can conduct remote inspections, remote video inspections, but if we do that, it's just an option, it's not mandatory. We also have to conduct inspections every 24 months, but if we think a unit fails inspection often, we might want to conduct inspections more often. In Chapter 11, re-examinations, when we do re-examination, which we do annually, we should inform every participant that they are allowed to request an informal hearing if they do not agree with the determination that we have made regarding their rent or anything else. In Chapter 12, next slide, please. Regarding termination, anybody who buys a foreclosed property should not be able to evict a tenant, a Section 8 tenant who already resides in the unit, unless they would like to live in that property. Regarding drug-related violent criminal activity, if we cannot use a record of arrest to terminate somebody. We will have to use convictions. Next slide, please. In Chapter 14, landlords are prohibited from committed sexual harassment against their tenants, and they're also prohibited from retaliating against somebody who complains about, sorry, wrong slide. Chapter 13, there we go. This is, I lost that one. Oh, Landlord Outreach. So we are mandated to find as many landlords as we can in the program to participate, so we have units that are available for our tenants. So we have to reach out to landlords, to apartment associations, to brokers, anybody that we can find who can help our tenants find units.
And Sandrine, I know that's something that we talked about in today's department head meeting. Was you were going to put a plan together for more outreach to landlords for next year, right? That was one of the things that we discussed?
Yes, I mean, I already started meeting with some landlords currently. I'm also working on creating a booklet that would tell them more about the program here.
Right.
And yes, and yeah, I'm trying to have a meeting with them next in the spring when we can have, hopefully my building will be open, and or if they can come in and have all the windows open so we can have as many people as we can in the room.
I'm sure we're going to be able to accommodate something.
Yay. All right, so chapter 14, I think we went through it already, so we can move on to the next slide after this one, which is chapter 16. So in chapter 16, it's again about remote review and hearing. So when we're conducting them, we have to ensure that the technological resources are available to the family. We have to make sure that the platform that we're using is accessible to people with disabilities, and that we have interpretation services if they are needed. And throughout the whole plan, HUD wants us to make sure we inform people that we can receive information via email. So not only via fax and mail and in person, even if a document is signed, we can receive a document by email and accept it that way. So that's pretty much all the changes that we have.
Can I
yes,
ask
Councilman Patel, yes.
Let me ask you, this is like low income families, provided by the help from the federal. So do they have, cable TV and television and phone included in that one? Because, they don't have money to, live. And then today, look at this hi-fi. These guys are ripping us off, how they are going to provide? Is this part of the whole package or any kind of discount provided to the housing residents? How this is going to work?
So if I understand, you want to know how they can do the remote hearings, for example, if they don't have access to TVs or to the internet. Am I understanding?
Yes.
So, yes, they have the option, if they don't have access to the technology, to still come to the office and meet us. But a lot of our participants do have access to at least one phone or a family member who has a phone, and they can use that phone or a family member's iPad to get in touch with us. But again, if that's not possible, we can make arrangements for them to meet with us in person.
Sandrine, can I just ask you about something Vishnu just said? He called this low income, and aren't the, with the exception of seniors, aren't the majority of people who may be on Section 8, don't they work?
Not everybody does, but yes, some family do work, yes. Yes.
I just didn't want to think that people are hearing that it's low income. For some it may be, and some of them are older women who are by themselves. And
it's all types of income. We have people on fixed income. Right. We have family who do not make enough, even though they work full time. Right. We have families who are on Social Security because, that's what they are. Or we have people who are disabled. Mm-hmm. So it varies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And I'm sorry, we also have a lot of people who recently lost their employment because of what's happened, the pandemic. And yes, they are with us now.
Okay.
Any other questions from the town board? No?
Not a question, but just a comment. It's great to see some of these changes. There's a young man that I've mentored over the years who lives down in the Bronx, and he is in Section 8 housing. And he had recognized a lot of the needs for changes in the entire program, being a participant and seeing that he was viewed upon differently. And he's actually become a activist for it, and he's been working to try to make some changes in the program. And I may actually give him your number.
Oh, sure.
Sandrine, to talk to. Just from that, his name is Termination. Wonderful young man, and I think I think these are some much needed changes to the program. So.
Oh, that would be nice. Thank you.
No problem at all.
And this is also why we need to meet with the landlords, because some landlords have, the idea that people on Section 8 are just either people who don't want to get help for themselves, who don't want to work, or who don't want to, or who are going to destroy their apartment. So we want to meet with them and let them know that it could have been anybody. It could have been somebody who was not on Section 8 who destroyed your apartment. It's just, we want you to know who they are, meet with them, talk to them, and they're just people who want a little help so they can do a lot better for themselves.
So these are some of the exact issues that he and I spoke about and the challenges that he sees. Sure. And one of the things that we came up with was, you know how a town does a job fair, or a business does a job fair, which the town of Yorktown is going to be doing another one on November 30th.
I think that.
So he was saying that, something like that would be great where if you had a housing fair where you could have people meeting some of the applicants and meeting some of the people. And he also spoke about education classes for both landlords and tenants in that conversation. So
there's a fair coming up in Lewisboro next Tuesday at the Lewisboro Elementary School. I'll be there, and hopefully we can bring some of the people who are going to be there one day to Yorktown, so they can tell us more about the programs too.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely send him your number. If you could type it in as a private message to me, that would be great, and I'll copy it off of there.
Okay.
In the chat. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I had the opportunity to talk to Sandrine yesterday, and she has jumped into her new job, both feet first. And I just want to tell you, we appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I didn't get that call, though. I'm still waiting.
No call.
Okay.
Very good. So then with that being said, we can open it up to the public for comment.
Sure.
Sarah and Mel, I believe, wanted to make public comment.
Sure.
Okay, I can go first, I guess.
Hi, Sarah.
Good evening, Supervisor Slater, members of the town board, Diana.
Yeah.
Sarah Wilson, 30-year resident of Yorktown Heights and a member of the Community Housing Board. We've heard a lot recently about affordable housing in Yorktown. And of course, there hasn't been any new affordable housing created by the town since our set-aside law, which required 10% affordable housing set aside, was struck from the books under the Michael Grace administration in 2016. But it's really important for our residents to understand the difference between affordable housing and Section 8 housing, which is the subject of tonight's public hearing on revisions to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. The presentation of the changes that were outlined by Ms. Tseng were very helpful, including that very important topic of landlord outreach. The Housing Choice Voucher Program limits the amount of an occupant's housing payment to a portion of their income. But the landlord typically receives the full market value for the unit, some from the tenant and the rest from the program. Affordable housing, on the other hand, is housing that's set at a cost that's below the market rate, right? So it's an important distinction. To expand on Councilwoman Roker's statement about Section 8 housing and the type of people who take advantage of the program, when I was a child, my mother was disabled by a stroke, partially paralyzed, and also by a divorce. And she struggled to raise my sister and I as a working single mother earning a low wage as a clerical worker. Because of her low income, we qualified for Section 8 housing. And that enabled us to remain in our community. We were able to find a decent apartment in our home community of Larchmont, where my sister and I could remain in our school district with our friends and our family, and could be assisted by the support networks that we had, such as our church. Offering housing options that meet the needs of everyone in our community, whether they're low income, middle income, or high income, is really vital to maintaining a strong and vibrant community. The Housing Board welcomes the opportunity to speak with the town board soon about ways that we can ensure that we have that housing diversity in our town, especially in light of all the proposals for large housing developments here in Yorktown, none of which are required to contain any affordable housing units under our current law. So thank you very much for the presentation this evening. That's it on my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next.
Hi, Mel Tansman again, 30-year.
Hello, Mr. Tansman.
30-year resident of Mohegan Lake. I want to thank Ms. Tsang for her presentation. It really helped, and want to welcome her to the town of Yorktown.
Thank you.
So I would have truly liked to be able to be prepared to comment on the substantive revisions to the Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan. I would have suggested in the future that the marked up or separated out changes be available to the community before a public hearing, so we can actually know what we're talking about. However, I really want to take this opportunity to comment on the importance of this program to the residents who qualify. As some of you know, I'm also a member of the County Housing Opportunities Commission. So I'm quite aware of housing issues, and in my career as a disability advocate and executive director, I've dealt a lot with housing. As noted in the plan, I just want to go over a little bit what the purpose of the Housing Choice Voucher is, and that's to provide rental assistance to eligible families. While this might seem, in a superficial review, may seem to think that people are not impacted in our town, you take a deeper dive and there are some really revealing statistics. Yeah. The county 2021 housing needs assessment shows there are 1,915 renters in Yorktown. 44.9% of these tenants are paying unaffordable or severely unaffordable rents. That is, paying more than 30% of their income for rent. The hourly wage, the report notes, is for Yorktown, the hourly wage rate is $15.85. And the average fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Westchester is $1,687. Using these numbers, a working family would have to work 81.9 hours a week to afford a rent at the fair market level. In addition, the supply of rental units is dwarfed by the demand. Thus, success of the Housing Choice Voucher Program is dependent on the further development of affordable units in Yorktown. While the Housing Choice Voucher waiting list has been closed in Yorktown for many years, I'm hopeful and we can expect more funding from Washington for this program, especially if President Biden's Build Back Better bill passes as is expected. Excuse me while I change my pages. I must also note, though, that the Housing Choice Voucher Program in Yorktown cannot exclude non-Yorktown residents under federal law. Right. In 2011, Yorktown was sued due to discriminatory eligibility practices. and must treat all applications equally. While this may be unpopular for some council members and some future council members, it is my hope that the council will not sacrifice this valuable program over this. The bottom line is that the Housing Choice Voucher program is one valuable tool that addresses the housing crisis in Yorktown and Westchester County. I urge the council to move forward with considering a new affordable housing set-aside proposal as presented by the Community Housing Board. The new overlay districts being considered by the town can and should require 10% of all units to meet affordability guidelines. Further delay and refusal to consider will cost all Yorktown residents dearly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tansman. Anyone else speak for this public hearing? Anyone else speak on the public hearing regarding the revisions to the Section 8 administrative plan? I think that according to our town attorney and our town clerk, we're going to have to adjourn for 45 days.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that this gets put on the town's website for the public to review.
It is on the town's website to review, and it also was noticed that it was available in the town clerk's office and Sandrine's office.
And the library.
And the library, correct.
In the library.
So it is already posted.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, one moment before we second that. When was it posted?
I don't know the date, but as soon as we got it from Sandrine, it was posted on our website.
I don't, but it hasn't been
45 days has to be from the time that we have the public hearing.
Right. All right. So we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great job, Sandrine. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Tansman, if you have any questions, I'm sure that you can give Sandrine a call and she can walk you through the changes that she's making.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sandrine. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Okay, next we've got discussion of, well, we've got we've got our comptroller here, Pat Caparel. We have a resolution to adopt the amended tentative budget as a preliminary budget for the year of 2022. Is there any discussion on this before we make a motion? This was, again, this for the town board. Any discussion on this?
Nope.
Is it possible for me to make a comment?
No, sir. This is not open for comment. Thank you very much. All right. So then we'll make a motion to adopt the amended tentative budget as a preliminary budget for the year 2022.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
hold it. I have questions.
Okay.
I would like to respectfully tell the board, or shall I wait till?
No, that's why I offered discussion first.
Okay, I do not want the board members to receive raise this particular year. You can reinstate on a January 1st, and I'm not going to vote if you do like that. If you do not, if you want to give the raise on this budget, my vote will be no.
Understood, Councilman. Thank you. Any comments to that from the other board members?
Matt, could you just explain to the public the raise and the mechanism for it in our town law right now?
There
or town code?
Yeah, I have our comptroller here who can explain. You have to speak up.
It was by resolution, and that is why the raises are for all the elected officials are incorporated into the budget on an annual basis.
Did you hear that? Is that everyone heard that?
And Pat, what is the raise increase based on?
It's based on CSEA. Whatever the union's raise is what the elected officials are entitled to.
I'm not going to say anything different than I did when we met with department heads. I just don't think this is a smart thing to do. I think that if you want to hire the best people to sit in these chairs then you've got to offer them something. You know, you look at what the council make. How much do we make that?
20,000.
Proposed to be $20,000.
Yeah,
what
so
we-
right now we make 19.
Right now, here I can tell
1980,
you.
I think it is.
What you are discussing is completely different than what I'm asking you. Only town board member, okay? Part-time town board member, okay?
No, yeah, that's
full-time
where we're.
employee, they have whatever they are.
Fucking town board.
No, Councilman Patel, we understand what you're saying. We are talking town board. I'm just trying to find the page number here.
There was a big controversy on that one, okay? And it was shoved in, by some board member and those who were personal financial needs. How can you give the raise somebody who has never spent 1 minute or 1
There it
second,
is. I got it.
and they start working and get the raise,
So-
$500
so
or whatever it is, There are people in our community, they cannot feed their children, okay?
Yes.
The need was like, and it was not given last year. I'm just requesting, and you can do whatever you want, January 1st, whatever you want. Just leave it like this in the budget. That's it. I'm not saying anything else.
The increase in the budget goes from $19,575 to $20,064 for the town board members.
And do you have any number? What was in the 2010?
I do not have, no, all I see is back to
No.
2018. I don't see back to 2010, Councilman. Do you remember when we look at that resolution? When was that resolution passed? 14. 2014 was when the resolution was passed.
How much was it?
2010?
2010. One moment, our comptroller is looking at it right now, Councilman.
People are having very difficult time. They have lost a job like that, and then we did not give anything last year. Why you want to give? Things are not as better today than it was before. Because I heard it from some board member, even before this thing, they're gonna get the raise, okay. And I'm not saying, you can do whatever you want.
What did you hear, Vishnu?
They're gonna get the raise, okay?
1508. So, Councilman Patel, you read the answer?
An elected official, I have no objection, okay? It was only for the town board member. They are getting part-time, they get full medical benefits, and if they don't like it, then, they can bring it in to the January 1st.
So just a couple of things from our comptroller. The 2010 salary was $18,085. And just as a point of information from the comptroller, right, medical is contributory. It's not paid for in addition to the salary. So if there are any board members that are taking the medical, they do pay into it. So just as a point of information for you, Councilman Patel, and the public. Any other discussion on the matter from the town board?
Somebody wanted a $30,000 raise to bring it to the standard. They didn't like the low one. Well,
that was me.
There are people cannot make the ends meet. You have no idea how much money, people donated, those who are not able to buy food on their table on this difficult time, and things have not that changes, So this is the only reason I'm saying it. You can do, you have a vote, do whatever you want.
If I may.
Councilman Diana, yes.
Yeah, Alice is right. And that's when I made the statement during the budget hearings that, you got to pay to get the proper people in any job. I don't care if you're a welder, a bookkeeper, it doesn't matter. I know Vishnu gives all or most of his salary back. I give some of mine back. But that's my personal choice. That's his personal choice. But this position here, we're making less than minimum wage, or we're making less than minimum wage. And I don't think that the general public actually realizes how much time you actually put into this quote part-time position. Just because we're not here at 9 and work till 5 doesn't mean that at 11 o'clock at night we're not on our phones, or that we're not going out to water main breaks or to to this, that, the other thing. So, you know, to bring it up to status quo with a lot of the other towns and villages, once you get into, I'm not going to say, you know, the other towns and villages in Westchester, you know, we probably should be up around $30,000. You know, a couple $100 here or there is a nice dinner out. That's about all it is. We don't do this because of the money. We do this because of love of town and the love of helping people.
But we are discussing now money, not the love.
What's that, Vishnu? I was in thought here.
Now the discussion was the money and not the love. Okay.
Well, I was just explaining why people do this for the little bit that's here.
This was only
and anybody that wants to step up
and not the full-time employee of the town or supervisor for anybody else. Okay, I'm not saying about that, you know, but they are day and night too, you know. This is my viewpoint, you know. That's it.
My point is, anybody that wants to step up and wants to,
you know, because sometimes we discuss about the, you know, the minimum wage and all that, and it just bothers me that look, how they can spend 15 cents out of their salary to, you know, I mean, or 1 cent or whatever, you know. So this way we should be very sympathetic to the people. You may never know, you may need that shoulder to lean on for any reason. That includes me, you never know, you know. So that's my thought, okay?
Okay, thank you. Now maybe I can finish mine. Anybody that wants to step up to this position can run for the position, as all of us have to get where we are today. We didn't take it because of the money. Thank you.
All right.
So we have, thank you for that. If there's no other discussion, then we can move forward. And we did have, and I don't know if Diana went. Diana, do you want us to remotion? I'm sorry, Diana, you're muted.
No, we have a motion and second. You just need to vote.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of, again, is adopting the amended tentative budget as a preliminary budget for the year 2022. Signal your support by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. And I don't. Very good. And then we will adopt the notice of the preliminary budget public hearing for the year 2022. And that will be December 7th, 2021 at 7 o'clock. Is that 7 o'clock?
7 p.m.
That's what the resolution says. Diana, you're in trouble. The comptroller's not happy.
No, can't win them all.
She can't win them all. And with that, so we'll make a motion to adopt the notice of preliminary budget public hearing for the year 2022 for December 7th, 2021 at 7 o'clock. A motion?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move into the work session portion of our evening. And we do have a couple of work session items that we wanted to just hit on quick. So we do have the Town of Yorktown Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Update on hopefully.
Where are we here? Oh, there it is.
Is Cynthia Bianco still online?
Yes.
Great. If we can let her in. Do you want to come? Do you want to come up? You can come up. I'll throw my mask on. Okay, Cynthia there? Where's Cynthia? Cynthia, are you still with us?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia. So sorry for the delay. This is Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
How are you this evening?
I'm fine. I'm fine, thanks.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. We apologize for the delay.
Sure, no problem.
So, Cynthia, do you want to introduce the hazard mitigation plan that Westchester County is currently underway doing?
Yes, I can give you a brief overview. Would you like me to share my screen?
That would be wonderful. I think you should be able to.
Yes.
Great.
Can you see that? Let's see.
There it is. Now we can see it. Yes.
Okay. Oh, it sounds like we're on a delay.
We've got you loud and clear here.
Okay, 1 second. I think I have to log out of,
Yeah, if you're on the town's website, log out of that.
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Having technical difficulties here.
Nope, no worries, no worries. We were the late ones.
Okay, all right, I think I've got it. All right, can you still hear me and see my screen?
Yep, we're all set here.
Okay, well, yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Cynthia Adonisio Bianco, and I work at Tetra Tech, and we're the consultant that is supporting the update of the Westchester County Hazard Mitigation Plan update. And your community, town of Yorktown, has been diligently working on this for many months, starting in the summer, to update your section of the plan. So I'm here tonight to give you a brief overview, because it's very important that you and your town and your residents understand that this plan exists and that it is adopted in order to provide eligibility for FEMA pre-disaster mitigation funds.
Great.
I'm just looking to, move my screen. Yes, so I'll just give you a little overview on what hazard mitigation is and why we do that. So a mitigation plan is a plan to give a roadmap to increase community resilience. Mitigation is defined as a sustained action to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to life and property from a hazard event. And this translates into creating a plan that is going to address potential impacts of or identified hazards of concern to your community. So mitigation saves money. In New York State alone, they've saved up to $10 billion in benefits, according to the New York Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. We are looking at costs that are being spent to recover from disasters, such as the recent flooding that's been experienced in Westchester County. That illustrates how important it is to have a plan in place to take your property and people out of harm's way. As I noted, it's important to have an adopted hazard mitigation plan because that provides eligibility for FEMA pre-disaster mitigation grants. In fact, in 2021, FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program, or BRIC program, is providing over $1 billion in mitigation grant funding. So just to give you an overview of what's at risk in the county, there have been 27 presidentially declared disasters since 1953. And you can see on the screen that that covers everything from hurricanes, flood, snow, drought, and even fire. These are some of the hazards that are covered in the hazard mitigation plan. So in a nutshell, what is the mission of the hazard mitigation plan? The steering committee got together and they created a mission statement to really communicate the purpose of the plan. So the mission of the Westchester County Hazard Mitigation Plan is to protect and enhance the health, safety, property, environment, and economy of the communities within Westchester County, and to increase resilience by partnering and planning to identify and reduce future vulnerability to natural and other emerging hazards in an equitable and proactive and efficient manner. So the hazard mitigation plan process, as I mentioned, has been going on for several months. It's a planning process. It has been a public process. There is a hazard mitigation website, westchesterhmp.com. And there's a link to that on the county website and many community websites. And on that website, you will have access to the meeting calendar and any meeting documentation and information about the plan. We are now in the final phase of the project. Your elected officials have been working on their section of the plan, and it will be soon finalized and posted Monday, November 15th, for public review for 30 days. During that time, it will also be submitted to the state and FEMA for review. Once the state and FEMA approve that pending adoption, that is where your adoption resolution is comes in play, because that must be submitted to FEMA through the county to ensure that Westchester, the town of Yorktown, is covered in the hazard mitigation Just to review the hazards that are in the plan, you'll see the list here. They include earthquake, extreme temperature, floods, severe winter storm, wildfire, disease outbreak, and chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear incidents. These are hazards that were included in the last plan, which was written in 2015, and which the county and the Mitigation Steering Committee felt should be included in this new plan update. In addition, the plan looks at what we call Lifeline Facilities. And so those are critical facilities that provide an indispensable service that enables continuous operation of critical business and government. These are the facilities that are highlighted by FEMA for funding for their mitigation programs. And they are the focus of creating community resiliency. So just to go over our adoption timeline, once again, the information is on the website, which is shown here, westchesterhmp.com. The draft plan sections will be posted next week for 30 days. We look forward to any public feedback and review. As it turns out, we during the planning process, we did publish a citizen survey, and we got an unprecedented response with over 800 responses across the county. For the town, we have summarized the responses of the citizen survey in your section of the plan. Also in the section of plan, it culminates in a list of mitigation projects which address the risks and vulnerabilities that have been highlighted in the plan and by your town. So that is the overview of the mitigation plan. I hope I've given you a good idea of what it is and the purpose of it, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I have sitting with me now our town engineer, Dan Ciarcia, who I know you've been working with on this, as well as Margaret. Dan, do you want to just discuss with the board some of the projects that you've identified as part of the mitigation plan?
Sure.
Just gonna swivel this. There you go.
So the issue is that this process has been going on for a while, and that there was a list of a total of 39 projects that came out of that whole public participation and the ongoing process. So we sat down, went through the stuff, and Cynthia advised us that we still need to keep all the projects on the list because it was a mixed bag of ones that were of low priority and ones that were also completed. So for the purpose of clarity on our work with Tetra Tech on this, we're going to update that list, but I'll just quickly run down the projects that we submitted as really the highest priority and we'd like to see advance in the next couple of years. One was dredging the stream channels, Lynette Court, Mill Pond Road, Boundbrook Lane, the flooding that takes place over there. We talked about replacing the culvert at White Hill Street and Hunterbrook. The culvert and bridge, to replace the culvert and raise Mohegan Avenue, which is another chronic flooding location.
Up by 6, right?
Right by Route 6, yes, coming into Mohegan Lake Hamlet.
Yep.
That's the bridge that goes over the Mohegan Outlet.
Yep.
One of our real, and going through all the
we saw this
issues,
one firsthand.
The Greenwood Street Bridge is a hot button issue for us for a number of reasons. It puts our sewage treatment plant at risk. It creates issues with access. The road floods out pretty badly, but we also have a reoccurring loss situation over there. So we think that that's really an important project we want to advance. We want to advance the drainage system throughout Yorktown Heights. In particular, we have a very large culvert that runs through the hamlet down toward Maple Hill. And given the age of that, and it's a metal culvert, that's probably a big ticket item, and it's the sort of thing that maybe during a big storm we really end up with a street collapsing somewhere. So that's one we want to keep in the mix. Then there were sort of the evaluation ones. Evaluate options to mitigate flooding along Brookside. Likewise, options for mitigating flooding on Hunter Brook Road between Whitehill and Foxtail. Incorporate hazard mitigation information into comprehensive plan and emergency response plans. And then finally, promote support for non-structural hazard mitigation alternatives for at-risk properties within the floodplain, including those that have been identified as repetitive loss and severe repetitive loss. So that sort of dovetails with the Greenwood Street Bridge, because I don't know the stats on it, but there's a severe repetitive loss property there that's impacted on a regular basis. That impact will be reduced by having putting a bridge there that can better convey the flow of Hallett's Mill Brook across Greenwood Street, but there may be still some risk for property in that area. So that's what we distilled the list down to.
So when you just said you had a couple of final changes that Cynthia had recommended. So once you make those final changes, you're going to submit to Cynthia and circulate this to the town board.
That's right.
Okay. Any questions from the town board on this or the process, or anything for Cynthia that she may be able to answer?
I have questions. You know, this is one is a privately owned property. They have insurance and flood billing, everything else. And then another one is the infrastructure in roads and town, streets and like that, which is, owned or operated, whatever you want to call it, is by the town. And so not long ago, in the middle of the town where there is a Chase Bank and, the CVS area, 3 feet of water came in from one storm. I was there, really, everything stopped. So this will be done with some kind of government help or something, or how? This is a question to the town engineer from me.
Well, that's we're trying to get ahead of problems and remediate them. So that drainage system that causes that flooding is on this list. So this is part of the process, because we can demonstrate to FEMA that they won't have to pay out damage claims because of flooding, that we're proactive about fixing stuff. That's how we, how we partner with FEMA and hopefully get some grants. Separate and apart from that, I mean, I'm sure we're all going to be talking about infrastructure in the next few months as we try to understand how the money that's coming out of Washington will
hopefully come down.
And it's a question what the conduits will be. Some FEMA may end up being a conduit for projects that they feel can, protect property and reduce losses.
Because, just like in the middle of the town, it was so bad, and many things were discussed about 12 or 15 years ago. And I don't know how much, because the storms are getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
So if you build more land which is already not builded, and then build up, this is a very big problem. Along with the other problem, the traffic and different kind of, and each one has a cumulative impact. So if you want to do something in a hurry, and approve and everything else, who is going to pay for all this kind of thing?
Well, that's why it's really important that we participate in this process. And I think, as we've discussed before, oftentimes our local government hasn't been able to pay for these projects because they're too costly. So we rely on other partners to do it. In this case, and this is something that we actually talked about after the last storm, when we had that crazy flood out over on Greenwood Street, is storm hardening and resiliency. And it just worked out, obviously that we were already engaged in this process. So, this with the partnership of Westchester County and FEMA is the conduit to get us the funds needed to start addressing these exact problems. And by addressing these exact problems, there's going to be an immediate benefit to those property owners that are in the vicinity. And I think that's the key here. And so we're able to address the infrastructure with the financial assistance of the federal government and help our homeowners to make sure that when we do have, and I agree with you, Councilman, 110%, these storms are not once every 100 years. They're every year, if not multiple times a year now. I mean, it's been nuts, and it's not going to get any better. And so we need to make sure that we're planning these projects out. And this was done, by the way, with consultation of our highway superintendent, of our building inspector, because he deals with the floodplains. So it's been a real collaborative effort, as well as planning, and of course the police department were involved as well, based on their involvement in the storm process that we go through. So it's been a real collaborative effort to identify what these projects were, and by participating in it, obviously we're going to be able to hopefully benefit by getting the dollars from the federal government to finally address them.
All right, but my now personal experience, I was on water sewer impact on the environment from 1983 to 86 or 87. There was a very, very good engineer. We were all 7 or 9 people, and they put, we decided, and I was the chair of that person because nobody wanted to be, fully committed. And as far as the increasing in the capacity has not changed. Not long ago, about five something years ago, where the Yorktown Autobahn in a highway.
Yep.
If you come, it is impossible to now, if there is a very bad storm and then you have a very large changes in a number of unit build up within the open space, what we have now, or the land. I mean, this really, where are you going to get the money? This is a very, very big change coming us on our way from Mother Nature and a desire to expand, So, I really, we have to think that really how much we can swallow, put in a mouth, and then how much we can swallow. So these are the responsibility of the developer, the town engineer, like that. People want to build curry in a hurry,
But in this case, Councilman, this is about partnerships with the federal government and county government, and so we gotta make sure that we're in it to win it, in a sense. So we have to put forward these projects, which again have been identified on the staff level, and then this way, if to Dan Ciarcia's point earlier, if there's infrastructure money that starts to flow, at least that we've identified projects that they can put those dollars towards. And I agree with you. They're big ticket items. They're big dollar items. But that's the only way that we're going to get the financial support is through the federal government.
Because, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Because I'm still not very convinced that what was written by the really very, very good, high quality engineers and like that on a committee. Today is very hard to find those kind of people because they are very busy like that, and nothing has changed. Okay, because whether they didn't have the money or they did not build it now, and it seems to be change has come on our door, and I'm worried about it.
Vishnu, over the last couple of years, the town has been involved. I'm just talking about my time.
Oh.
In the last couple of years, the town has redone 2 culverts. And the cost of those culverts is something that the town couldn't afford to do.
Right.
No way. They were millions of dollars.
Yes.
We don't have that kind of money. And I think it's important to have a list of projects. So when money is available and somebody says, we've got this bucket of money, do you have any projects? Dan can say, yeah, we got lots of projects.
Right.
That's so important.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions from the town board? All right. Well, then we appreciate Cynthia hanging in there with us. Thank you so much for your patience and time. This is great. So Dan, just to recap, you're going to make the changes that you discussed with Cynthia today, resubmit, and then you'll share that final product with the town board.
Yes.
Excellent. Anything from your end, Margaret?
Nope. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. You have a good night. And thanks for your
night.
Thanks for your work on this. Yes. Good night now.
All right. Next, we're going to discuss the Maida project at 1875 Brookdale Street. Thank you, Margaret. This is a wetland and MS4 stormwater management permit application, including a mitigation plan. Again, keeping Dan Ciarcia right here at my side. I see that we have Joe Arena and Mr. Almeida with us. Gentlemen, good evening. Joe, do you want to update us as to where we are with this application?
Sure. Let me just turn off this live feed that's playing in the background. Okay.
Thank you.
Since we were last before you, you referred us out to the Planning Board, Conservation Board, Tree Commission, the Tree Committee. We've been to all those boards. We've received comments, verbally and written comments, and we're ready to move forward with opening up the public hearing again and continuing with the process.
Can I ask if our environmental consultant has looked at this project?
I don't know if it was referred to them or not.
Planning did not refer to them.
Yeah, I'm not aware it was referred to them.
So,
yeah, I mean, this application predates them.
Right.
Right, we knew that.
Yeah.
But you have contracted with I'm just reading the Conservation Board memo over again.
Yeah,
the Conservation Board agreed with your wetland specialists' recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Their only additional recommendation, meaning the Conservation Board, was native wetland plants to be added in the disturbed flagged wetland boundary.
Yeah, there's a corner of the wetland. It's right up by the road. There's a little corner there that they wanted some additional plantings for that area. So we've agreed to that.
What about the grade? Now, what about the grade with that your walls built on?
Say that again, Matt.
The board recommends an order. So this is in regards now to the.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yes. No. We also agreed to shorten that section of wall.
Okay. So then you're meeting both recommendations of the Conservation Board.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yep. We are.
Well, to the town board, or I mean, Dan, do you have anything you want to add to this? Do you feel it's ready for us to reconvene, or?
Matt, can I just ask what the tree commission thought about their plan?
Let me pull their memo. There's an awful lot of paperwork with this application.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see.
Can I just make a general comment,
Yes, sir.
When somebody come for any project, we want to help, right?
Yep.
But my observation, that each one, either the builder or financial, they give a piecemeal information. They know that you go to the restaurant, you have the menu, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you're right, Vishnu.
I have felt, my years of the councilman, and when we wrote the master plan review from 1980, why they don't come with, they just want to give you minimum information, and then
I couldn't agree with you more, Councilman.
Like that.
I'll agree with that.
We want to help you succeed.
Right.
And you cannot succeed, So it has happened to many, many, many times, really. It's just why it's like that,
So just, I agree with you, Councilman. Quickly, just Councilwoman Roker, and then we can go back to Councilman Patel. The tree mitigation plan, the Tree Conservation Commission. Let's see, on October 17th, right? That was the last one.
Correct, 17th. Correct.
The mitigation plan for Brookdale passes the provisions of this part of the tree ordinance. The sizes of the trees and shrubs are missing from the plan. So you need to update your plan to reflect whether they are balled and burlap in containers or dry rooted. Can you answer that for us?
Yes, we will provide all that on the latest update of the plan.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then also in regards to the environmental monitoring, when does that start? That was one of the questions by the tree commission.
Typically that starts once the plantings are done.
Okay.
And the town has accepted the plantings. Then that process begins, depending on what the town wants to do here. It could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years is usually the range that's.
And that was one of the other points they made, was that if plantings, if they have failed plantings, or if failed plantings are replaced and then monitored for the next 2 growing seasons. So I think it makes sense for it to be at least a 3-year monitoring requirement.
But we have no objection to that.
I think it's pretty typical.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, we have no objection to that.
Okay. Any other comments from the town board?
No, those were the 2 commissions I wanted to hear from.
Yep. And are we comfortable moving to reconvening the public hearing so we can work with the town clerk?
Yes.
To set the date?
Absolutely.
Councilman Diana, you good? Yes. Councilman Patel, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So then we will work with the town clerk to set the date for to reconvene the public hearing, and then we'll go from there.
Terrific.
Okay. Anything you need from us? Anything you need from us, Joe?
Nope, I think we're okay.
Mr. Almeida, you good? Yep. Okay. All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Next, we've got the replacement of Baptist Church Road Bridge. This one,
Matt, I'm sorry, before we go there, I don't know if Sandrine realizes her camera's still on. I see like a lot of action going on. She may want to turn it off.
Sure.
Sandrine, I don't know if you can hear us, but you may want to shut down your camera.
Let's see. I'll text her. Oh, there she goes. Okay. Thanks, guys. So again, we're good to go. Move forward here. So this is the replacement of Baptist Church Road by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. I know that I recognize that there's a typo on the agenda there. It's not the environmental conservation, but environmental protection. And we are bringing our friend Highway Superintendent Paganelli. Are you there, Highway Superintendent?
I am here.
Okay. All right. And who from DEP do we have? You have Jeff?
How you doing, everyone? Good evening. Yeah, this is Jeff Bussey.
Great. Jeff, Victoria, and Ron, correct?
Yes.
Yep. This is Ron Roman with Hardesty in Hanover.
Great.
Yes, I'm Victoria Carpenter with NTech Engineering.
Awesome. Very good. So Highway Superintendent Paganelli, you had a couple of issues that you needed to make sure were addressed. So we wanted to bring this back onto the work session. Would you mind taking the lead on this conversation?
Certainly. I did have the opportunity to speak to Jeff offline regarding this. Our major concern at Highway is that all the wetlands permits and all that are spiffy and neat, but without a street opening permit, this project can't happen. So that being said, we just spent $107,000 paving that section of Baptist Church Road. That is not by any stretch an engineered road. That is a road that was a dirt road, became oil and stone, and then got asphalt thrown on top of it. And I would be willing to bet dollars to donuts that brand new paved road for $107,000 of our taxpayers' money will not stand up to the kind of traffic that's going to be put on it over the course of 2 years. So I had mentioned that to Jeff. He was going to go back to his people. It will certainly be part and parcel of the street opening permit that we will go out independently or together. We will videotape the road. We will, ascertain that the road was just paved 3 months ago, so we don't have any problems there as it exists now. And the road will be closed for 2 years, so there shouldn't be any resident traffic on it. So anything that occurs to the road in the course of the next 2 years will be as a result of this project. So those are my concerns.
Hey, Jeff, what, anything that you can do to help us out on this?
There certainly is. We discussed it internally, as part of DEP's standard practice. It is our policy to have the contractor fix or replace, any facilities that are damaged by their operations, and that cost would be borne by the contractor. With that said, we're going to reinforce that for this project after hearing the concerns of the town. And like Dave said, we will videotape the roadway, the pre-construction condition, and then we will be able to tell if any damage is done by the contractor's operations, because that section of roadway, as you said, will be closed, for a year and a half. So we will be adding that language to our contract, just to reinforce and enhance and make sure that the contractor will be responsible for that section of roadway.
Very good. Does that satisfy you there, Mr. Paganelli?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate your getting back on that, and I look forward to a good working relationship.
That sounds great, Dave. It was nice speaking with you yesterday.
Jeff, have you had a chance to speak with the Hunterville Association? I know we have Paul Moskowitz, who's very interested in this project. Have you had a chance to speak with him yet?
I did speak with him.
Okay.
He wanted to set up a meeting over at the bridge with some of his directors and some people from DEP.
Okay.
And we're currently working on setting that up.
That's
okay.
great.
That's perfect. Mr. Paganelli, you're going to be part of that conversation?
If you'd like me to be, certainly. I'll ask Mr. Moskowitz to reach out to me, or Jeff to reach out to me. Let me know when that meeting will be taking place, and I would certainly be there.
Great. You have to watch out for Mr. Moskowitz. He wears camouflage while he's on Zoom in the woods.
Well, as long as he's wearing the brown camouflage with the green background, I think I'm okay.
All right. Hey, Mr. Moskowitz, you good with that? Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Moskowitz. Okay, very good. Anything else that we need to tackle on this topic? Dan, you're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Anything from the town board? No. So I think the next step here, once you have your, Jeff, if I can ask, once you meet with Mr. Moskowitz, let us know, and then we can move forward with setting the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds good.
Sound like a plan?
It sounds like a plan. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. Next, we're going to have our town clerk present an idea to the board. Madam Town Clerk.
Thank you. So I've been going through some of the laws that obviously affect the town clerk's office, and one of them that came up, and something that probably should have been done, sooner, but I'd like to amend the peddling and soliciting law. It hasn't been updated for quite a few years, and the one thing that I would like to add is a do not knock registry. That would be maintained by my office, and basically a property owner or an occupant would sign up in my office or online to be included on a list of addresses that would be then given out to all licensed solicitors or peddlers, which would restrict them from entering onto their premises. One thing that we obviously cannot do under it would be any solicitation in conjunction with political, educational, charitable, religious, or other non-commercial purposes would not be subject to the do not knock registry. So I'd like to be able to get a draft to the town board, hopefully by the end of the week or the end of next week, to review.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. Now, just to make sure that we're clear, so when you see like basically it's the salespeople who come around knocking on your door, whether it's about, I've seen Verizon, I've seen
we would license.
I've had kids trying to sell candy at my front door, right? That for not-for-profits, does that count or no?
Certain ones do not. So if it's for educational purposes or charitable or religious organizations, typically we don't license them. They're non-commercial for us. The ones that come up to sell pesticides and things like that, those are the ones that get a license from our office. Those are the ones that would be given the list.
Okay.
So some are exempt for constitutional reasons.
Right.
And that's why it would be separate, but those certainly include any non-commercial purposes.
Okay.
I find more and more today companies are going to this door-to-door stuff, and I don't know why, because most people don't want them knocking
Right.
on your door.
Especially these days with everything going on. People are not
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I get
We
it.
have quite a few that do come to town. So, and I think that one of the complaints we always get, they knock on the door late at night. They come back when they ask them not to. So we want to really kind of put some strict tolls on there to protect our residents.
Yeah, I listen. I think it's a great idea. I think it would help the residents a lot, and cut down on some of the unwanted visitors. So I
Yeah.
think it's fantastic.
Yep, me too.
But how do you define unwanted resident? If you got stuck on the road and you want to knock on your door, is this unwanted or
No, that's different.
That's different definition.
and say no solicitation? Is it a solicitation? It means are you selling it when you go and put the brochure in a neighbor's home? I mean, is it really restriction from the town? Because this is the law by the New York State Board of Education that you have right to go. Or they say they'll send the dog. One guy sent the dog to me. I knew who he was.
Right.
I think that one of the things we'll do through the law is to clarify all that, Vishnu, and to make it clear for everyone.
Vishnu, there are restrictions in insofar as who can get a license and who can't get a license, or who doesn't have to get a license. So I think, like Diana said, she'll do it in the law to make it clear. This is the kind of company that's permitted. When people come to my house, I tend to say, "Where's your permit?" And if they don't have one, I say goodbye.
Right.
But this is the guy who knows me for 12 years, and then he sent me the dog. Okay, I'm just making.
Guess he didn't want to see you, Vishnu.
Yeah, I was with him. I can verify that.
Guess he didn't want to see you either.
No.
My problem.
We almost got locked up that day, right, Vishnu?
And then there are guys who give me water. Okay.
That's
I'm
hilarious.
gonna give each one something. I know about 5 or 6 people give me the water. Okay, that includes Dave, right?
Yeah. Well, good. I think it's a great idea. So we look forward to the draft, and we can move that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Next, we're going to turn it over to Councilman Diana to talk about the solar law. Councilman Diana.
Thank you, Supervisor. Yeah, this is a work in progress. I think that'd probably be the best way to put it. I'd first like to thank our planning board and our planning and zoning professionals for doing and continually to do the great job that they do in all of the planning and zoning within the town of Yorktown. It's absolutely amazing they can get through some of the hurdles that they get through. I want to start off by saying I am not against solar energy by any stretch of the imagination. It's clean, it's neat, but it needs to be in the proper place and needs to be done properly. And the positives that it provides are immense, especially with the closing of Indian Point now.
Yeah.
It's a needed thing. The main reason for this is to tap the brakes on the ground mounted solar in residential areas, and in residential areas only. In my opinion, this is a commercial / industrial use that's being put into a residential area. It'd be like putting a gas station where a house is, in my view.
I don't know if I agree with that one, Councilman.
Maybe not.
I just got to tell you, I don't, because the difference here is that if that was the case, guess what? The gas station's completely screened. So I think there's a big difference there. I don't think that's the right comparison.
But it may not be the right comparison, but it's like putting some type of a industrial structure in a residential neighborhood. Let me put it that way. it becomes that this is a power generating facility in a residential area. That's my view of it. We basically already admit that these solar panels are ugly with our screening mandate that we have. A discussion has already been had on some of the topics, including screening and the policing thereof. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago, right, Matt? I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that we had the preliminary meeting. Then there's the decommissioning, removal, and restoration, which was semi-addressed. We didn't get too far into that at that point in time. We had to look into the legalities of the bonding and how long bonding would last, and so on and so forth.
And how much?
Well, but I think we did cover the fact that the decommissioning does cover predicted inflation, so that in 20 years the cost is still there. Now, John, our director of planning, who couldn't join us tonight, was going to be having conversations with some of the solar companies to understand how do they finance that over that course of time. But the law does require a decommissioning fund that is with inflation built into it over the life of the system.
Right, but we just wanted to get clarification on that, number one, so that we know that we're covered. So let's say that we have a solar ground panel system put in, and the resident passes away. The 20 years are up, and the solar company goes belly up. Could this happen? Absolutely. Now the town is stuck with this. So I want to make sure that the town is covered, that this is absolutely going to be able to be decommissioned. If, as long as the town is covered on something like that, then that's good. But we have to look into that. That's one of the things that needs a further,
but that's a
further look
decommissioning bond.
Yeah, to see if that is all covered in there, because we know as well as anybody who's been in business that, these companies are in this for but one reason, and that's to make money. They wouldn't do it. Okay, so I've been in business long enough to see that, we've been wined and dined and said this is the latest, the greatest, and the next best thing since sliced bread, and they have it in the storeroom for a year. And then all of a sudden, oh, no, we got rid of that project. Or no, they're out of business or something like that. And now we're stuck.
It's a stink bug.
Tommy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because I kind of remember when we were doing the initial law, this was one of those fuzzy portions of the law where we said we would take a bond, but then we would have to update the bond over, I don't know how many years down the line. And I remember asking, and who's going to be responsible to make sure that bond gets reviewed?
Right. That's part of the stuff that needs to be inserted into this law.
Okay.
If it isn't spelled out in their bonding procedure, I don't know. I'm not trying to sterilize anybody's land, but to put these units in a place that makes that is more suitable. Example, commercial, industrial, some agricultural, rooftops, all within the zoning code. I have no problem with rooftop units. Matter of fact, sometimes they're fairly attractive the way they put them up. Eds and mats are nicely done, and are actually an attractive source of power generating. You talk about unattractive, and you drive up Route 118 and heading towards Town Hall, and you look towards your left, and what do you see on the top of the old Kmart building but rooftop heating and air conditioning units? Now there's a place where they could put solar panels up, almost act as a facade to disguise some of that, but yet generate power. Now, I know there's another project that may be going in there, et cetera, but we'll have to see what happens with that. I think that would be one thing that would also be an addition to the town, because when you drive by there, all you see is cement block and air conditioning units and heaters. Now you take the church at the corner of Curry and Gomer. Now that particular church has a beautiful steeple, right? That steeple is a cell antenna. No one would ever know that. It's very attractive. It's beautiful, but yet it serves a purpose. So, you know, to do something that would serve a purpose, such as something like that, to have it on top of our industrial buildings or our larger flat roof buildings is a valuable option.
Can I make a comment? I think
Sure.
we should have some video from Germany or other countries, you know, very highly industrial, and what kind of they have really solar, you know, on the roof and even the ground. Some places they grow the vegetable in the bottom, you know, and on the top of they're like that. We should,
Top of the roof, yeah.
yeah,
they do that.
like that, you know. And
Actually,
just unbelievable, really.
The best plumbing down here in on Route 202, their roof is grass. That's to help with the runoff of the water and so on and so forth. But if you ever go by there, the roof is grass. I believe that installing these solar panels in residential areas is only going to pit one neighbor against the other at some point in time. We had this discussion, it seems like for years, with the tree law, where we were afraid that one neighbor was going to be mad at the other because he could only take down 2 trees on his borderline property and blah, blah, blah. That kind of reflects back on putting these things on the ground in a residential neighborhood.
Can I just ask something to you?
Sure.
Suppose, you know, some elderly family, or maybe, you know, they are convinced, you know, in their lifetime, maybe they should put the solar cell, you know, and just like me, you know, and then the new owner comes in, and, you know, if the payment or they want to build something else, so then, you know, they lose a lot of money, you know, because they have to reduce the value of the property because of, you know, they don't like that one, only they want only the land. And many people, they do changes right away. So do they lose the money, the homeowner, or is it good for the buyer that, you know, they have to pay less money?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people may move in and say, "Hey, look, I don't want solar." Then what happens? But you know,
no, because they have the mortgage or something like that, right?
Yeah, I can't answer that question, unfortunately. Maybe we could get the best of both worlds and make solar incentives on projects of certain size and amount of units, where we would say, okay, let's say you wanted to put 100 units up in a particular area.
You mean like housing units?
Housing units, yeah.
Okay.
So
we're talking housing. So we're talking housing units.
Housing units now. Yes, I'm sorry. I should have clarified that. So, you know, residences or housing units. So that this way here, we can make incentives to possibly say to that particular developer, look, put solar on all the roofs, all right, rather than on the ground, which would possibly do the same thing as creating a ground array, yet it would also give the housing that's needed in this community. It would kill 2 birds with 1 stone, quite possibly. Instead of just saying, well, we can't put the housing up that we need in that particular area, so we're going to put up a solar farm. So instead of doing the solar farm, you put the solar panels on the roofs of the houses that you're going to put up, and you're still generating power. So
I think it's great to provide incentives for solar, especially for new construction. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. I think that they should have solar and they should be EV car charger ready for anyone who wants to bring an EV car into their house. But I'm still not sure what that's. I'm still trying to figure out what we're trying to do, because so are you not proposing a moratorium?
No, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
As you all probably know, I'm not a tree hugger, but at this time we have a very robust tree law that says what can and cannot be cut. So that is not my total thought on this whole plan, this whole moratorium that I'm going to be proposing. The tree law dictates certain actions that can and cannot be taken with regard to cutting trees and the amount that can and cannot be cut.
I have a question for you.
Yes, I saw you coming up on one.
Are you talking about the quantity or quality of the trees?
Both.
The quality is is what kind of trees in their area, and they are adapted to that kind of environment. And quantity issue, some of them they are mismatched and they may not grow old tree like that. So those kinds are also should be included, in large quantity, large area development.
Yeah.
If it's a wetland like that, nothing grows, and then whatever was land shaped before 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and then maybe they get too wetland or too dry, so there may not be trees over there in another 50 years too, or maybe.
And that we do have described in the tree ordinance. Now, we also have a height restriction or a height ordinance in this town that dictates certain requirements on the height of buildings that we can build or structures that can be put up. But the height of these panels, as dictated by our law now, or as described, I should say, by our law now, can be between 15 and 20 feet in height. Now, to put this in perspective, 15 to 20 feet in height, if you take a two-story house, it's from your basement to the ceiling, the basement floor, to the ceiling of your first floor, or basically the bottom wires on a telephone pole is approximately 15 feet. So that kind of gives you how high these things can be, and plus another 5 feet on top of that. So that's another section that we have to look at, possibly lower, and get the people in from the solar panel to discuss how low they have to be to get the direction of sun that they have to pitch these things at. I've looked into this a little bit, and there are actually ones that pitch with the sun and move a little bit so that they actually get the most rays for that particular time of day or particular time of year. Look, in conclusion, there's a need to enhance the law, and we have had one meeting and are working on it. But I think it's time just to tap the brakes a little bit, and to begin looking forward into these things where they can go wrong. Because I hope to be here in another 20 or 25 years. I don't know. But there are going to be people that are here a lot longer than me. And I want to make sure that this town stays as bucolic as it is now. Our motto is progress with preservation. I want to make sure that we do these things properly and not go off so that things aren't monitored, things aren't watched, and so on. Also, I want to keep Yorktown beautiful. I've been here my whole, well, not my whole life yet, but my life so far, my parents before me and their parents before them. And I don't think I'm going to move anytime too soon. So I want to make sure that this place stays the same. And I just want to say that I think with the closing of Indian Point, and I had a conversation with Rich Fon today with regard to this same topic, and we concede with this, with the closing of Indian Point, I think you're going to see the building codes change, where they're actually going to put solar on every house. It's going to be changed in the building codes. They're going to put solar on every house. There's going to be battery storage in the houses or outside of the houses, and it's going to be a whole change of the system. But we're not the only ones that are tapping the brakes or that would like to tap the brakes. There are towns that already have. Portland is one of them. Clifton Park, Portland was this year. Clifton Park was in 21. Queensbury, which I believe is up in the Adirondacks, that was in 20. The town of Glen, which was in 21. The town of Wakefield, which was in 16. The town of Bern, which is in 16, and Ulster, which was in 17. So I'm not going to go through and read the law. This is all up for discussion. I've forwarded the draft that was made up to all you folks, and I know I did it late. You probably haven't had a chance to look at it, but I welcome everybody to participate in making this law stronger so that the people that are here much after we're gone can appreciate the work that we did to make sure that this town stays as beautiful as it is now, and that we're secure in the way that when these things are decommissioned, we're covered 100%.
Tommy, when you first raised this issue, I went online just to see if there were any newspaper articles. Well, let me explain that there are not only towns within New York State, but this is the issue across the country.
Okay.
Of these solar ground mounted systems. So you picked a subject that there's a lot of discussion on these days. So obviously it's something that's there.
Yeah, and it's just, and this isn't anything to do away with solar or anything like that. Just that it's just a tap on the brakes so that we get it right. And Yorktown leads from the front. And I want to make sure that we're in the forefront of making it right for our residents and for our community. That's all I look forward to.
The only question I have is that when you propose a moratorium, there's certain legal steps you have to have taking place.
Right.
Meaning there's certain requirements, and I'm not sure if we meet those requirements, so that would have to come from Adam.
Right, and those are the things. Like I said, there's just drafts made up at this point. And you know, quite frankly, I'm just one vote on this whole thing. Like I say, I just want to make sure that everything is done right, and this is nothing against our our planning and zoning personnel, because they do an awesome job. And this might only make it easier for them to do their job. That's kind of why I'm looking to do this.
So can I just say something here? You know, you talk about the land use, you know, and building the new technology emerging, that the window and, you know, the walls and everything will be covered with invisible or visible, because depending on what light can go through, even if it is, you know, different kind of material, but as long as the certain kind of light, you know, like the sunlight with many different spectrum, they can pass through, and then they have a new kind of material, and they have anti-reflection coating. So everything is like a sponge, absorbs the material, you know, and store the energy, you know, they create the energy and then store it. So this will come, and every house, even in a car, would have it. Like, well, I'm just talking about only the houses, that the windows and like that, they'll be all covered the wall. You mean it looks like you have a wood, but different kind of a material which transmits the light of certain wavelength, and they produce electricity. This is very low voltage, so you don't have to worry. And the many bugs may not grow. Okay, the bugs.
The bugs may not grow. But it's like I say, it's a work in progress, and I just want to make sure that we get it right, because Yorktown always gets it right.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments on this from the board?
Like I say, I forward it to everybody. Take a look at it, mark it up, come back to me with suggestions, whatever it takes.
But can I just say last thing? We should involve in the builders, those who are or the planners, like a private professional guys. They build and design and like that, because what they can incorporate, in their design from very beginning, in the windows, which side, and the nipple kind of design,
I think they're going to be involved sooner than later with, like I say, with New York State actually probably changing building codes where they're going to have to. It's going to be mandated that solar is on every house, and battery storage units will be there.
Are you
because
serious? Come on.
No, I'm very serious, Alice. I think sooner than later you're going to see this. They're going to change the building codes with all this stuff, like especially with Con Ed, or I should say Entergy going out. And like I say, this is something Rich Fawn and I talked about as late as 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay.
That he foresees it, and I agree with him. You're going to see it coming.
Did Rich mention, by the way, I'm just curious, did Rich mention any deficiencies that he saw in the law? I mean, we had him on with us when we talked about this once before, if there were any updates that, as they've worked with the law, that they saw that they could use enhancements. Did he raise anything? Because he didn't the first time we spoke.
When I was speaking with him, we had discussed some of the height requirements, and the actual finding out more about the bonding for decommissioning and the replacement and so on and so forth. So like I say, it's just a tap on the brakes. Doesn't have to be for, like, the law I gave you guys was for 6 months. It doesn't have to be 6 months, but if need be, it could go longer, it could go shorter. I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure that we as the legislators for this town get it right for the people of town of Yorktown.
Well, I think like what Alice said, though, Councilwoman Roker said, we're going to have to check with Adam to see if it qualifies for a moratorium under the law. But I still think that if there are enhancements that we want to make, then we should make them. I think we have to just get our arms around exactly what that is. Like we talked about, the height requirements, was a good step. Mandating the inspections an annual inspection was a good step. Those are things that we talked about in the meeting that when we met with the department heads. So those are things that we can just move forward as just amendments to the code that can enhance it. We're going to have to amend the law anyway with our assessor that we're going to talk about next week about codifying the pilot program that they have to do. So we can still make the amendments without putting a complete halt and sterilizing these properties. That's, I don't know. I don't think that's what we're trying to accomplish.
No.
Yeah, right. So I think we can work through it. And I think it's important that the planning board be a part of the process and the planning team be part of the process, because they're the ones who are implementing the law. So that's why I was curious if Rich raised any specific deficiencies that he saw.
And have exemptions in the law as well. So I don't know how you're going to handle that.
I'm sorry. What was that, Councilwoman?
You have to have exemptions in the law. Like,
yes,
we're online now.
Yes. As a matter of fact, thank both of you for bringing that up. That I don't want this to adversely affect the people that have already been in front of the planning board at this point in time, and the planning board has worked so hard to keep them on track and get them done. This is not meant for that. Like I say, this is it's a work in progress, and we have to do it carefully.
But you're right to want to do it. Everybody else I guess they have this issue with ground mounted systems as well. I think it's appropriate to take a second look.
Yeah, and we may not have to do it if we can work through this expeditiously. But if it's going to take us time to gather all our facts together and get it done, then from, let's say, I'm going to say this point forward, I don't mean tonight, but we put a moratorium on new applications coming in so that we can make it right, make where we have our little deficiencies right.
I still think you have to get through the legislative process before we can establish a moratorium on these applications. So, but I think we can also work diligently with the planning department and the planning board to make sure they understand that we're trying to work on it. So I think there's ways that we can all get what we want out of it.
Yeah, and like I said, I just want to do what's best for our people, our good people in the town of Yorktown, and get it done. About it. So it's succinct. You can follow it right down the road. Everybody will know what they have to do, when it has to be done, and that we as the town are covered should property owners and or solar companies go belly.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. I think everyone is working off the same premise that it's what's best for the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. If there's no other comment, then we'll move forward with the next agenda item.
I actually just want to throw in, I know Councilman Diana did mention on it, and that he wasn't a slight towards planning. So as a liaison for the planning board, I was quite impressed with the steps they're taking and trying to really make sure and maintain. So, I just wanted to throw that out there.
They're doing a hell of a job. They really are.
They really are.
So, let's make it as easy as we can for them.
Yep. Our planning department, our planning board has been very on top of this, and it helps the planning board of residents.
Yeah.
Yep.
You see it.
It's good. All right. The next item is the master fee schedule. We have Pat Caparel still here, a comptroller. As a reminder, we agree that we were going to be doing this as part of the budget annually, so that we make sure that department heads review all of their fees to make sure that they're up to snuff. Councilman Diana, you needed to go we talked about this with the department heads, but Councilman Diana, you needed to go talk to John Landy, our building inspector. Did you have that conversation?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And I know that there were some amendments made and sent to Pat, correct, Pat?
Yep, they sent me the chart.
Yep. And I think this was
my chart.
Right. This was circulated.
Yeah, I have the chart, and I've got questions for John Landy.
John is not on. You want to call? It's almost 11. You think I don't think you're gonna get him.
Probably not.
When you raise your fee, generally what you have to have, or at least for areas that I worked in, you have to be able to provide justification for it. You can't just tell me you want to do this. You want to charge this. Why?
Is there a specific fee that you're looking at?
No, there are a couple of them. And I'm not certain whether or not he puts fee and then town code. And my concern is that this is probably not the smartest thing to have done, because I don't know what the fee is currently.
Pat, do you have that breakdown?
There they are.
I have I have the sheets that were sent around.
You're looking for the original?
She wants to know what's increased and what's decreased.
You want me to answer that, or
do you know what's been increased or decreased with the building department?
Yes. What we went over today, and in actuality, this is probably going to be something we're going to have to carry over for another meeting, because we're going to have to get Kenny involved in this too, because I had a discussion with him about water tappings and so on and so forth.
I saw that. Yeah.
Are a little bit, I think, out of whack. But I can go over what John and I went over today, such as gen sets or house generators permanently mounted. The install fee, hang on a second now. I have notes here that I'm trying to read. I didn't write down what the generator fee was, but on that particular one, we were lower than a lot of towns, or on par with many towns. But he is not going to charge. We had said we'd take away the administration fee, which knocks $125 off of the fee to put a generator in your house. Also, boilers up to $10,000 in price to put in. Boilers, furnaces, the like, water heaters. It would be $275 straight fee,
right?
No application fee on existing replacements only. This does not include new construction.
Okay.
For tank removal fee, it's 150 in if you put a tank in, and 150 to take a tank out.
And what do we charge now?
We charge 100, but on top of that would be the $20 CC fee and the $125 administration fee. So by the time you're done, it's $225 or $245.
Can you explain the administration fee to me?
No. Not to give you a short answer. I don't. That's why I wish John was on here. He'd probably be able to explain that a little bit better. The administration fee, I don't understand myself, to be honest with you. That's why I figured we'd have them knocked off. And the reason I did, the reason we went through a couple of these here is because it's like replacing an appliance. You replace your refrigerator, you don't. It's an appliance, and I understand that you still have to get your electrical and your plumbing done, but like with a boiler or with gen sets, with
Tommy,
the generator
let me
set.
explain why I have a problem now.
Okay.
We are not in an up economy right now.
Correct.
And I you know what? I'll just say I'm uncomfortable.
All right, we're going to have to table this. There's just no way that we're going to be able to make a decision on this without the department head present. Yeah, I see it. And we're finding other, it's just mind blowing. We've been trying to get this done since March. It's just mind blowing to me. We're going to table it. The other questions from the town board.
Can I speak?
Highway Superintendent Paganelli.
All right, I have an additional fee that has to be added on. So if you could put this aside for now.
You do, Dave.
We like that.
Hey, you know what, guys? You guys can tell the comptroller that because this has been going on since March.
This is regarding platforms that are now being built in our right of way, and we have to then ascertain and make sure that we have adequate funding to maintain these things should they go wrong, and that's because Con Ed's putting 4 of them in up on Foothill Street. Cablevision has 6 of them coming in, with remote readers. So it's a whole new ball of wax, so to speak. So yes, if you could postpone this for the time being, that would be swell.
I mean, it also reinforces the fact that we really should then, because either we're going to do this as part of the budget, which we're failing to do again, or we should change the law to allow us to update the master fee schedule by resolution. So this way, when things like this come up, we can just do it.
Matthew, we wanted to do that a couple of years ago, but you can tell no. But because you are absolutely right.
I mean, this is because. I mean, if there's no opposition, then we can just have Adam. He had a law already crafted that allowed for the master fee schedule to be done to be updated and done via resolution. And we can do it that way. I still think it should be done as part of the budget process. I'm not saying that. I still think it should be done as part of the budget process to ensure accountability and to ensure that the department heads are actually reviewing it.
Correct. I agree with you.
There's no doubt about that. But if Dave comes along, and then I'm not picking on you, Dave, but if there is a new thing that's happening that falls onto the plate that we need to address. We can't wait until the next budget cycle to go do it.
Correct.
Okay, there is another question I have it in. In a planning department, you have something comes up, and then the lawyers require from town side, and who pay for the lawyer's fee,
Legal fees for the planning department. Adam, do you want to speak to that?
I pay in the budget.
No, because it was already law, and then we were using our own town attorney or something else.
This has been an argument that I've heard before, that we don't collect legal fees through the planning department or the planning process. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we haven't been collecting them. I've tried to change that. Part of it is it's been wrapped up in this process to a degree. I mean, that's it. That's the status, really. That's where we are.
So to the board, do we want Adam to introduce the legislation that allows us to change the master fee schedule? I think honestly, what we need to have it say, though, I still want it to be part of the budgetary process, but the town board should have the flexibility to amend the master fee schedule by resolution to add a new fee by resolution.
Totally agree.
If we can do that, we could accept this then into the budget now and amend it.
Hold on, I got two people talking to me. I'm sorry, Councilman. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. If that's the case and we want to do that, we could still put it in the budget now, Matt, and then amend what we want to amend in 3 weeks, right?
Assuming that you have the law passed. Adam, what do you think about that?
Now, Pat would have to kill us.
You have.
Thank you, Alice.
She said, "Thank you, Alice."
What did Alice say?
Alice
I'm
said,
not scared of Pat. I can outrun her.
Pat would kill us.
At least she didn't say I'm done.
What were you going to say, Adam? What is your proposal?
My proposal is change it so you can do it by resolution anytime you want, and then every year you can have the department heads propose changes during budget season. But if things need to change during the year,
right, exactly.
I know, but I still just don't think, though, from past practice, that unless there's a requirement for them to review the fee schedule, it won't get done.
What I'm saying is can you keep it in the budget? I don't have a problem with that.
Yep.
Okay? But can you change so that if something comes up throughout the course of the year, you can do it by resolution?
Are you adding, or you just want to? You talking about adding new fees, and changing fees?
Yeah. Can you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, we absolutely could do that.
That's foray into this,
we can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
How does the board feel about that then? So
I think that should happen.
That seems easy.
Got to run it through Pat before they contemplate this to see how it's going to affect the budget.
Without a doubt, so then the question goes back to what Tommy was saying, what Councilman Diana was saying. If we're going to give ourselves the flexibility to change the master fee schedule, right? Does it make sense to let it ride as is, as proposed, so that it's included in the budget? And then if we need to make adjustments, we can.
I'm not going to vote on that.
Okay, that's fine. It was just a proposal. I'm just trying to finally get this done. I hear you. That's fine. The other question for the board before we leave this topic, there was a proposal for an event fee.
Yes.
I welcome feedback.
Matthew, before Michael Grace came, event people had to pay at least their share of if they're working with our staff, they had to pay for the staff. And if they were going to, everyone produces garbage. And if the refuse and recycling were called out, they were paying for that, plus the police. Mm-hmm. So they were being charged a lot. And now we're charging them nothing. And I think that's really not the thing.
And Pat can speak to this, but when you look at the budget, the event line has been decimated because it's not a bad thing. I mean, we want to be as welcoming, and we love these community events. They're good for the town. I'm not trying to deter it, but it puts stress on the system.
Yeah,
it puts stress on the system that is supported by the taxpayers. So I don't think so. I there's a proposal that I circulated to the town board. I just was looking for feedback.
I agree with the 50%. 50.
Okay. So it would be a 50% event fee for all town workforce expenses, and that's at the discretion and recommendation of the chief of police as part of his safety evaluation process.
Right. And he's got to treat everyone the same.
Of course.
You know, and 50% is better than nothing.
Right.
Right. I mean, you know, halvesies, right? I mean, isn't
it? but you know, we have long-standing people that do events, and the fire department. Not that
I agree.
You know, and they have them every year, the same time. The Grange, and the Grange doesn't cause a problem, but you know, they do their little tractor parade and so on and so forth. Yeah, we have the ones that we have had, and if I'm not mistaken, we doubled. Oh God, I don't remember when. Under Michael, we doubled the event fund.
Correct.
Okay, if I'm not
event
mistaken,
fund has continued to grow because we can't sustain it.
Right. One of the problems is that last year, and I shouldn't say it was a problem, but it was unexpected, that we had the two marches, and we had the Gay Pride Day. The Gay Pride Day cost the police department $13,000. Now, some will say that, and this is coming from an old cop, that you know, it was overkill. I tend to disagree, and the reason I disagree is because you don't know when something could go sideways, and you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So in that case, I mean, what we say, okay, you got to do. They're going to pay us $6,000 or $6,500 because it cost almost 13.
In that particular instance, I mean, basically the chief would have to provide an estimate of cost for everything included, whether that's just the police, whether that's the highway department's involvement, whether that's the parks department's involvement. I mean, it's going to be a collaborative effort here.
Yeah, I will provide my own estimates of cost. I don't expect the police to estimate what my cost is. My cost associated.
No, Dave, you're providing them to the chief. The chief compiles all the costs and then would provide the recommendation to the applicant in theory of what the total cost is, and it's half.
Well, I got to tell you honestly, I agree 100% that we have been very remiss with respect to this. And I agree that 50% is better than nothing, but it is a very fluid thing to be able to provide an exact cost. For instance, this year we kept track of what we spent at Highway alone on the Feast of San Gennaro, and it was $9,600.
$9,600?
Yes, that's what we spent.
Just your department.
We tracked every penny, going down to White Plains, picking up the barricades, bringing everything up, the overtime, moving the trail around, everything, barricades in place, and then taking everything away. So, you know, my feeling is, yes, I would very much like to get $4,800 out of that. I just have a concern about being able to tell someone in advance what the cost is going to be. That's what I'm not quite sure about, to be honest.
Well, but you know, the billing is something that we can figure out, at least an estimate maybe, so that they know, or a commitment of what the estimated cost would be, depending on what's needed for. It's a case by case basis, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's the, you know, if someone wants to go do a festival over at, you know, Veterans Field, that's very different than, you know, a parade or whatever, right? So
in closing roads, yeah.
Right. So everything's going to be it's a case by case basis. I just see that the budget
a rough
continues.
Estimate. I'm good with that. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just a rough estimate.
It's going to be based on the input of each department. It's not that the police chief is going to.
No. And I talked to Chief Noble. He has no desire to be doing that at all. Meaning, you know, speaking on your behalf, Dave, or speaking on Jim's behalf for parks, or Phil's behalf for refuse. He's just going to be the conduit especially for these
To
public
gather all the
events, to gather all the information, and then he provides it to the clerk, and the clerk is the one who's going to process the fee that's included.
So can I?
And that's only because she kept us here so late.
So yeah. So let me ask you a question then. I remember back in the day, different events were charged differently. Charitable events, things that the town co-sponsored. Will this be across the board, or will there still be delineations as to what this would apply to?
No, I think that the town board has to take a look at the events that have occurred. You know, whether it's an event like the Veterans Day Parade, Memorial Day, you know, any veterans events, you know, our Firemen's Parade and Carnival, you know, things of that nature that have been long-standing events. You know,
I agree with you, Matt, on that.
I think those should be. I would say those should be exempt, and you know, those are. I think because they're basically grandfathered in, and I think those are things that the town generally has an obligation to support anyway, because it has for years and years and years and years. So, other than that, no, I don't foresee. Once you start playing the exemption game, that's when I think it gets messy.
Yeah, that's when it gets.
That's when it gets messy, you know. And so, if you have input, Dave, on what you think should be in or out, I'm happy to send it over to you. But I sent the board, you know, for their consideration, things that have been part of this town for quite some time that seem like no-brainers, and you know, they would be grandfathered in, and then anything moving forward, you know.
May I ask Dave a question? Dave,
Sure.
is it possible to look back at this year in anticipation of next year?
Yes, I mean, for instance, you know, I keep going to the Feast of San Gennaro because, in terms of highways involvement, that's probably our biggest involvement. As you know, we don't have that big an involvement in the Relay for Life because it's predominantly at the field. You know, we have big involvement with respect to the parades. That's a situation where we're closing off, you know, a amount of town, want to keep everybody there safe. So yeah, I could look at. That's why I started tracking it, because you know what, I had no idea how much we were spending, you know, on an event like that. And I've got to tell you, I was shocked. That
I think it's also important for us to recognize, and I don't know how we would memorialize it, but I don't think, you know, I want to be very clear. The intent isn't to nickel and dime organizations who are trying to do programs or events in town. The intent is these larger events that are costing us, you know, San Gennaro cost us $20,000 plus.
Easily.
I mean, it's over $20,000 that the town spent on that event, right? Just and I don't want to pick on that event. There's other events that, you know, that have occurred as well that cost taxpayers. And while we all may support it or not, you know, I just think that it's been building and building and building to the point where it's just growing unsustainable. And I don't think it's unfair to say, let's split the bill and see.
Splitting the bill was more than reasonable. More than reasonable.
Yeah, because you get these big events, they're gonna be big dollars. I mean, you know, Feast of San Gennaro, or like I say, the Gay Pride Day, and you know, like I said, I don't think the chief handled that the best way he could with what he had to work with and the notice he had. That all of a sudden, boom, it was there, and any of these events can go sideways in an instant. I don't think it'd be the most well-intentioned event. Even the Feast of San Gennaro could go sideways. You don't know.
You know what if we could bring people in who were associated with all those events and say, from today forward, this is what our plans are, so that they understand even before they get to the point where they're going to fill out an application, the new policy.
No, I agree. I just don't want to overcomplicate it though, because then again, I don't want the town to be put in a place where you're picking winners and losers. And this isn't about, you know, admonishing or supporting one group over another. This isn't about trying to prevent one group and not another, you know, but there are, I think, specific events that we can all identify that the town has had for long-standing events, or that the town itself has supported, and I think that's the baseline. And
I think, Supervisor, that's a very good reason to have the chief of police make that determination. What he would understand the safety needs involved with respect to parades and things like that, and what his manpower is. And we certainly, like Councilman Diana said, you know what, you don't know till things go sideways. And the fact that we haven't had any sideways issues, is a testament to the fact that it's been getting done right. So
we do it right. You're right, Dave.
I mean, just to be clear, though, the way that this is only for events that require a street closure permit or a police presence.
Right.
Yeah.
So just so we're clear, so like if you want to go have an event at Sparkle Lake, it doesn't apply. Right? You're dealing with the Parks and Rec Department. So I just want to make sure we're clear. So this is only for those large events that require the street closure permit or police presence, or if the chief of police, for safety reasons, feels there needs to be some enhancement or for the safety of the participants.
Yep.
So those are the three, those are the three qualifiers that we get to start at first. If they meet any of those three, then we move forward. If they don't meet any of those three, then they're dealing with the specific departments that they have to go work with.
How much money have we paid out so far, Pat? Do you know?
The line's maxed.
Yeah.
That line is already spent. It doesn't include the Holiday Lights Parade, which is a town event, right? So
absolutely.
Right. So we wouldn't be doing this for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it doesn't include
But now I have to cover.
But that's my point.
Right.
So now that we don't have the money for it, right, and we have to go close the roads, there's now Pat and on our team have to go and find the money to cover the cost associated with it. And so that's where these events, as much as they're great and we want to keep them going, but it does stress the system. That's my point.
If I may, you have an organization like the Grange. Now the Grange is been around forever here, but they're struggling like everybody else, and they have their one little event a year where they have the parade going up there, but that encompasses closing a number of streets. Do we give them a pass?
Well, I think again, it's up to the discretion of the chief. So the chief can say, listen, that's the way it's written. That's the way I wrote it with our team. Again, that it requires if it's a street closure permit or a police presence or at the recommendation of the chief of police. Yeah. And that's what it is. And so it gives him.
Supervisor, how does that mesh with the grandfathered in aspect of it? In other words, we said that some events were grandfathered in and would not be affected by this. So how does that mesh? For instance, the Grange. The Grange is probably the oldest event.
Yes, exactly.
I think it needs to be memorialized in the fee language. Right. So excluded would be the Memorial Day Parade, the Veterans Day Parade, the Grange Tractor Parade. That's what I'm saying. Like you need to specifically identify, memorialize within the language of the fee, so it's very clear what is in and what is out. Mm-hmm. And again, I go back to, it's got to be a very high standard, because we're not trying to nickel and dime organizations at all. But I think that we can all easily come up with a handful of the events that we do every single year that are either town-sponsored events or long-standing events in this community. Right. And so I think that's the high standard we have to go to.
Now, when you say town-sponsored events, you mean events the town puts on itself?
Holiday Lights Parade.
Perfect. Okay.
The Veterans Day Parade, the Memorial Day Parade,
the Halloween parade. And
yes, the Halloween parade.
The Halloween parade, the summer concert series. Those are all, either town-sponsored or town-sponsored in conjunction with, right? So, and they've also been going on for how many years? So they're long-standing events that the town has participated in and hosted for how long's the Lions summer concert series been going on, Ed?
It's 1994.
So, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's got to be a high standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I think it's really important to to stress the fact that, because look, there's a balance and a counterbalance here, and the balance is a budget. And like we were pointing out, Pat's ripping out her hair, figuring out now how do we pay for the holiday lights parade and how do we pay for the Veterans Day parade, and are we doing the ball drop, because the ball drop now falls on that too. So
That's next year.
No, it's actually 20.
No, I know.
It's the 31st.
Yeah.
So, we have 3 events left. We've blown the budget.
Yeah, we don't have any money.
And here's,
Well,
but the
right, we don't have any money in the
counterbalance-
line. We have to go
Right.
find the way to. We have to go find
Right.
money to cover.
And the counterbalance here is that these events bring a lot of people to town. They're good for business. They're good for the town. So I think the stress is we're splitting costs.
Right.
Because we could just say, this is what it costs. Write a check and you could do your thing. And it's important that we have that standard. I can agree. Yep.
Yeah.
But I want to put it out there that look, this, and I'm sure there are towns that just say this is the cost, and so we're passing it all right over to you.
So I guess we have to hit our department heads, such as Dave and the chief and
Well, you can take it from Dave. He has it on his.
Oh yeah, he's got
line.
a nice fund balance going on, but he of how much they participate and how much it costs them for each event that they're participating in or helping out with, I should say.
Now, the biggest cost would have to be staff, because these events are on the weekend, and so we got a minimum of time and a half and double time.
Well, not only that, Dave pointed out running down to pick up dividers and to pick up, move the stage, and there were a lot of other expenses. So he did point that out, and rightfully so. It just isn't police overtime. It just isn't, town overtime. It's a lot involved.
All right. So then
we agree.
We're all in agreement. Very good. So that's and then I think we have direction as to how to deal with this master fee debacle. So we'll deal with that accordingly. So we're going to move on to resolutions, and we'll take them all together. We're going to reappoint.
Yay!
I'm sorry.
Yay!
Yay! Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Highway Superintendent Paganelli. All right. Reappoint Lawrence Klein as a member of the Tree Commission Conservation Advisory Commission for a 3-year term to expire October 31st, 2024. Authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with the chief of police for 2022 through 2024. Authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with MRI Software LLC for Happy Software license and support for the Section 8 office in the amount of $7,876.99. That Happy software can go with the fund.
It always made me laugh.
I just got a kick out of the name of it. I thought that was great.
Authorize supervisor to sign the New York State DOT compliance policies. I do want to note that these include non-discrimination assurances, limited English proficiency policies, equal employment opportunity policies, disadvantaged business enterprise program, and the MWBE policy. So again, just important policies for us to be moving forward with and following. Authorize the police department to purchase another 2022 Police Interceptor Hybrid SUV from Westchester County Contracts in the amount of $36,047. Authorize the comptroller to pay Brittany O'Neill the cash value of unused time as of her date of separation, and that lump sum is $503. Authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer for the highway department, transferring $98,000 from the salary line to be divided between the supply and materials and drainage line. And this will help for our drainage projects that the highway department is trying to complete by the end of the year. We're going to authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer for the police department. This is a budget transfer of $379,000 from the general fund to cover the police retirement. Again, this is for the contribution payment to be processed in December, and that's due to rate increases assessed during the calendar year. So it's also important for the board and the public to understand that these were not the rates that we had originally budgeted for. We have to authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer also for the police department, and this is to cover overtime of $45,000. And to the point, overtime, this is just for one payroll period of $45,000. So just to keep I think keep it in
I'll be
mind
back.
when we're talking. What's that?
I'll be back because we have
Yeah.
6 more payrolls.
And then we're also going to have her do a budget transfer from the police medical line, again, for the salaries. This is to cover salaries through the end of the year for $126,800. We're also going to authorize the comptroller to issue a water refund to Crown Victoria Realty Services, LLC, due to an overpayment in the amount of $42.02. We're also going to authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with David Tetral PC for architectural services for the construction work at the Highway Department. Authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Revens Design for engineering services for construction work at the Highway Department. We're going to authorize Barton and LaJudas to perform a stormwater review for the 650 Pinesbridge Road subdivision application. This was a request of the planning board. Approve the use of the Albert A. Capolini Community and Cultural Center Gymnasium by the Chamber of Commerce for 5 hours of use for the job fair on Tuesday, November 30th, 2021.
Supervisor, could I just ask a question on that one? Would it be appropriate, because it's a job fair not only for everyone but for our community here, if we waive that fee?
I apologize. The resolution states the town board waives the rental fee of $190.
Yeah, I thought we were waiving it. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's approving the use, and then within the text it says waiving the fee. So it's approving the use and waiving the fee for its use.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. My mistake. I apologize.
We're going to approve a tax certiorari proceeding for parcel known as Section 16.08, Block 1, Lot 12 on Bank Street, and Section 16.08, Block 1, Lot 14. We're going to approve the release of a performance bond for stormwater permit, yada, 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 for work done at 332 Homestead Road. We have a few more.
Resolutions, yeah.
I have a few more. We have one. I have our engineer here. Do you want to come up real quick? As a reminder, at our last week's meeting, in regards to the Gregory Street application, stand over there. In regards to the Gregory Street application, the applicant did meet with the planning board, the planning department and our town engineer,
right,
to finalize the points that we asked for. We do have a resolution from the engineering department, which is not on the agenda, but we do have our engineer here. I'm happy to read the conditions. That the following plans and documents are approved, subject to the below listed conditions. A drawing entitled Landscape Plan, prepared by Gabriel C. Nord, dated June 15th, 2021. Last revised October 31st, 2021. A drawing entitled Stormwater Pollution Prevention and Erosion Control Plan, prepared again by Mr. Senor, dated April 12th, 2021, last revised October 31st, 21. A tree removal and tree planting report, excuse me, tree mitigation proposal prepared by Aaron Schmidt, dated October 29th, 2001. Be it further resolved that the wetland and stormwater permit is granted subject to the signing of the plans by the town supervisor and shall be valid for a period of 1 year from date of this resolution, and that all work associated with the permit shall be conducted in strict compliance with the approved plans. And be it further resolved that the stormwater tree permit shall automatically expire upon completion of work. And be it further resolved that the below listed conditions must be completed within 6 months of the date of this resolution, or shall become null and void unless an extension is requested by the applicant in writing within said 6-month period and granted by the town board. The conditions are: all outstanding comments of the town engineer must be addressed to their written satisfaction. Final reports from the town engineer shall be submitted to the town board, which shall ensure that all outstanding comments have been satisfied and shall also address resolution conformance. Prepare a notice of intent to obtain coverage under the stormwater general permit for construction activity. A construction monitoring fee in the amount of $1,000 must be submitted to the engineering department clerk. Prepare an erosion control plan for review and approval by the town engineer. An erosion and sediment control bond or other collateral acceptance to the town board and in form acceptable to the town attorney shall be submitted to the engineering department. Said security shall be in the amount of $1,500, which shall be released upon required documentation of satisfactory completion of all work and stabilization of the site. address the conditions contained in the following memos. The Planning Department memo dated November 9th, 2021. The Conservation Board dated October 21st, 2021. And the Tree Commission dated November 3rd, 2021. Conditions of the tree and stormwater permit. The applicant agrees to allow periodic inspections by the town and its consultants. No additional disturbance or modification to the approved plans are permitted without prior written approval from the town engineer. A pre-construction meeting with the applicant's contractors and the town staff must be held prior to the commencement of work. All trees to be cut or pruned must be clearly marked in the field in accordance with the approved plan prior to pre-construction meeting. Additional requirements to be satisfied subsequent to the signing of the plans. The town engineer must provide a written report no later than at the expiration date of the wetland and stormwater permit, documenting the status of the implementation of the requirements of this resolution. The only thing I don't see in here, Dan, is the fee for the tree bank.
That's incorporated in the tree committee's report.
Yep.
And there's still some
ambiguity.
There's still some differences between their consultants' tabulation and the tree committee.
Okay.
So right now, the tree committee's number is $2,000.
Yep.
But there were some, outstanding questions that will need to be resolved, and we're going to need to get a final set of plans that address the comments in the memorandums that you.
So you're going to say all of that?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's contained in the memorandum.
It's
so
yeah.
It isn't coming back for signature unless those conditions
are met. Because it clearly states that they have to meet the conditions in the following memos, including the Tree Conservation Commission, November 3rd.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any questions on this from the board?
Nope.
No. Let's see. What else do we have? We have some from personnel.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that Stephen Frieda is hereby appointed Assistant Building Inspector, Job Class Code 0520-01 in the town of Yorktown, effective November 10th, 2021, to be paid at the rate set forth in the Yorktown CSEA salary schedule, A1 Group 16, Step 5, which is $97,093 annually, with benefits such as sick days, personal days, and floating holidays to follow the CSEA agreement. Be it resolved contingent upon successful completion of a drug test. Be it further resolved that this appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 nor more than 52 weeks, commencing on the first date of appointment on November 10th, 2021. And we have another one. Be it resolved that Michael J. Antonucci Jr. of Mohegan Lake, New York, is hereby appointed Provisional Assistant Wastewater Treatment Plant Superintendent, Job Class Code 0614-01, effective November 29th, 2021, to be paid from Yorktown CSEA salary schedule A Group 16, Step 5, which is $90,159 annually. Be it resolved, this is contingent upon successful completion of a drug test. Be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Yorktown authorize Michael J. Antonucci Jr. to be paid a stipend of $769.23 per pay period for the grade 4 license to operate the wastewater treatment facility. I think that's it.
Say it isn't so.
All right. You got a motion to accept all resolutions.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No. I want to thank our town clerk, Diana Kloss, for keeping us here so late. And
I want to thank Diana
we will
also.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a great night, everybody.
Say good night, Matt.
My night gets
Good night, Matt.